Hey guys, welcome in. It's the Rob Kendall Show. Hope you're having a great Monday. Thanks so much for spending it with us. Indiana news, politics, and government. You're not going to get anywhere else. Coming up a little bit later on in the program, former governor, former senator from Indiana, Evan Bayh, is going to be with us. So, guys, you guys are going to love this interview. It's a long one. I'm going to prepare you for it right now. It's a long one, but it's totally worth it. We're going to talk about almost being picked to be vice president. I mean, most of you guys know it came down to him and Joe Biden in 2008. We're going to go in great detail what all of that was like, his meeting with Obama, what they asked for, the background check. I was fascinated by it. We're going to go into the government's response to 9/11. Of course, he was a senator after 9/11. We're going to talk about the impeachment. Shortly after Evan Bayh got sworn in was the impeachment of Bill Clinton. We'll talk about the trial of Bill Clinton. We'll talk about the government's response to the financial crisis of 2008. There were so many things that Evan Bayh was in Washington, D.C. for. So we'll talk about all of that. We're, of course, going to talk about Beau's run for Secretary of State. What role did Evan Bayh play in Beau's decision to run for Secretary of State? It's a great interview. It's coming up later today. Don't miss it. Former governor and senator from the state of Indiana, Evan Bayh. And as you guys know, look, our bread is buttered with Indiana news, politics, and government you're not going to find anywhere else. But we recognize there's other things going on in the world. And each show we try to give you some of the biggest things that have been happening from day to day with some audio from what I think are the most interesting audio clips from across the Freedom Plain. Keep you up to date on everything that's going on in the world. And we start today with Friday. For those of you who watched on Friday, we had Stuart Mora on, and he is with the Indiana Organizing Project. They had their big protests across the state in relation to the ICE detention facility in Miami County. And if you want to argue that something can be done better, okay. That's fair game. The government can do a better job with blank. Always willing to hear that. But one of the things I don't believe has been articulated at all by the people that are upset about ICE and the way illegal immigrants are being detained, or the way people who are being deported from the country because their TPS status is up or been revoked or whatever, is what do you do with these people? You don't like the way it's being done. What do you do with them? And the problem is they don't have an answer for that, because deep down, a lot of them really don't want immigration enforcement. They just don't want immigration enforcement. One of the things that Stewart said, he said, well, we can stop 99% of the people from coming in the country illegally. Now, I don't think so. I don't think the government does anything with 99% proficiency. And so you have a real issue with a lot of people saying, okay, you don't like the way ICE is doing their job. You don't like the way the detention centers are doing their job. What do you want done? And there's not an answer to that. And so Tom Homan, he's the border czar. He was on CNN over the weekend, and I think this was Dana Bash, and he got asked about the Haitians that are being sent back to their country. You know, one of the groups that has been a major, I don't even know if abuser is the right word. I don't think it is. If the government's going to let you stay, you're not really abusing the system. If you're getting a good deal for you and people know you're here, I don't think that's abusing the system. I think it's the government allowing the system to be abused, but I don't think you're the one doing the abusing. If the government's going to allow you to do something and you're doing it out in the open, well, it's not really on you. That's on the government. But one of the issues is you have a lot of people in this country who come under these temporary protected status provisions. They come under the asylum seeking provisions. And the whole premise of this is you're coming from some country where it is an imminent danger for you to be there. It's an imminent danger to your life for you to be there, whether it is the government themselves, whether it is a natural disaster, whatever. But the whole, and this is understood when these people come, is that you're not here permanently. It's not a forever thing. It's not till death do us part. It's you're here for a very short period of time. You stay, then you go back. And many people, millions of people at this point, have been able to stay in this country for decades. It's not the way the system was set up. It's not the way it's supposed to operate. And the Trump administration has said it, and it's now been backed up by the Supreme Court. It said, hey, we're done with this. We've gone on with this operation long enough, and it's time for you people to go back. And the people who want as many people to flood into this country as they possibly can are outraged over this. And Homan says the thing that we've been saying here out loud. This is temporary. That's the first word, temporary protected status. First word, temporary, as in not forever. Time for him to go. Court says go, not ICE's fault. And a lot of people are trying to dump on ICE for getting these people, apprehending these people, and getting them set to be thrown out of the country, removed from the country, sent back to their home country because their status was temporary. Here is Tom Homan, border czar, on CNN over the weekend.
Well, look, the temporary protective status is supposed to be temporary. And it's as long as I've been around for over 40 years, it seems like it's never temporary. It gets extended and extended and extended. Even the conditions in the home country have changed. So this is an order of the court. They were ordered removed, and ICE is removing them. They're going home. And if we send them to a third country, people be complaining about that. So ICE did their job. I'm not involved in the specifics of this, but they lost their TPS status. They're ordered removed. They got to go home. They have no status here anymore. They can't stay here.
ICE is simply doing its job. ICE is simply doing its job. This issue has been argued in front of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has ruled. The Trump administration has every right to remove these people from the country. If you don't like that, win a presidential election, get some Supreme Court seats, and then maybe something changes. ICE is not the bad guy here. ICE's job is to take these millions of people either in the country illegally or now who have been ruled that their temporary status has expired. It is time for them to go back and get them ready for removal. That is the whole job of ICE. Trying to villainize ICE for doing their job is ridiculous. And so I come back to what the people who are against ICE, or a lot of people who are against these detention facilities, what they don't really want to say out loud is, we just want these people to stay forever. And Stuart Moore kind of said that. Well, these people have been in the country forever, and they're law-abiding citizens, and they're taxpayers. Maybe true. Well, they're not law-abiding citizens. They're law-abiding people staying here, but they're taxpayers. Maybe true. It's so different than if let's say you go through something and you lose your apartment or you lose your house and you go stay on your buddy's couch. You may be a perfect tenant while you're there. You may pick up after yourself. That's unbelievable. Talk about just throw it in the towel. Anyway, you can't do that to me while I'm on the air. You may be a perfect tenant. You may pick up after yourself. You may help clean the house. You may help provide groceries. You may even pay some sort of rent. You may be abiding by all the rules. But when you go to stay at your buddy's house, if he lays out to you, hey, man, you got a month or you got 2 months. This is not a permanent thing. I don't want you living with me. Happy to help out. You don't get to stay forever. So just saying, well, I abided by all the rules while I was here, when the whole premise of you being there was temporary, doesn't mean you get to stay forever. ICE is not the bad guy. And so then the question becomes, if we have to get rid of these people, which we do, the whole premise was temporary, or if you're dealing with illegal immigrants, they broke the laws of the country. How would you propose, for the people who don't like the ICE detention facility, how would you propose we do it better? How would you propose that we house these hundreds of thousands of people who need to be removed from the country? Look, as I told Stuart Morrill last week, I said, hey, if I had my way, as soon as we catch them, you throw them back where they came from. Can't do that in many cases. They got to go through the process, and they don't have an answer for that. Speaking of people that are awful, Randy Weingarten Now, she is the head of the American Federation for Teachers. She is a total leftist. And listen to this. So Target is based out of Minnesota. And she is telling everyone to boycott Target because they haven't been mean to ICE over the deaths that happen in Minnesota. Get a load of this. This woman and these lefty people are absolutely crazy. Take a listen.
Target has remained silent as ICE's cruel tactics have terrorized families in Minneapolis, where the company is headquarters, and spread across the country. And in March, we said if Target remained silent, we would shop elsewhere for back-to-school supplies. And we have done that. Go to the campaign website, shopsmart.aft.org, type in your zip code, and get back-to-school shopping alternatives near you, including unionized businesses with comparable prices to Target.
So last I checked, Target is a business, right? Any business. We're just talking about Target right now. They sell stuff, you buy it. They put a price on it. The price seems good to you. You buy it, you check out, you go. That's the relationship between the public and any business. They provide a service. They provide goods. You pay for service. You pay for goods. You check out. Do they do it well? Is the price affordable? That's the extent of the relationship. This woman is telling you that you should boycott Target because they're not engaging enough against ICE. That's where we're at now. Not that they're being conservative, not that they're being pro-ICE, not that they're being for ICE, not that they're giving money to ICE, not that they're for Trump. Simply the Target's like, we provide stuff, you buy it, we all leave happy. Now remember, Target used to be pretty political and they got smoked. Remember, Target was all in on the big left movement about 4 or 5 years ago. And they lost a lot of business. They're like, we're getting out of that. We're not going to be for any side. We're just going to provide the stuff. You buy the stuff. You leave. Everybody leaves happy. We make some money. You get stuff. Yes, Target was in on all the bizarre clothes. A whole bunch of stuff. And Target learned their lesson. And they said, we're not going to do anything anymore. We're not going to be for this side. We're not going to be for that side. We're Target. We provide stuff. But for this woman, that's not enough. If you don't do exactly what we say, if you don't protest who we tell you to protest, if you don't use your resources to go at people that we don't like, then we're going to tell people to boycott you. That's the left. That's the left. Being neutral is unacceptable. Not picking a side when you're a corporation who sells stuff, unacceptable. Speaking of picking a side, Buc-ee's? Oh, Buc-ee's has picked a side. This is some great audio. So the CEO of Buc-ee's is a guy by the name of Arch Applin. Sounds like a guy that would run a Buc-ee's, doesn't it? His actual name that I saw in print was Arch, and then in quotes, Bucky Applin. That's the guy that runs the Buc-ee's. And Buc-ee's now is publicly making a statement, making a proclamation. We are only going to conservative states. We're done dealing with the liberals. It's too much drama. It's too much effort. It's too much taxes. It's too much bureaucracy. We're not going to liberal states anymore. Listen to this.
Opportunities, we're growing, we're building in a lot of places. But when you find a conservative, business-friendly state with a phenomenal workforce, it makes a difference. And I'm starting to realize life's too short to try to build in places that people don't appreciate what you're bringing, versus a place like this where people do appreciate what you're building. So that leadership, that concept, that idea of conservative, business-friendly, family-oriented concept works so much better if it trickles down from the very leadership, from the very top at the governor's office.
Now, look, I will say this about Indiana. It is I'm not talking about taxes. I'm not talking about the government and the waste and corruption. I'm just saying from the actual to start a business, it's pretty easy. Certainly compared to other states. I've owned a business in a state that was under Democrat control when I started the business. Now, that state later flipped. But in terms of starting the business, so I have something to compare it to, Indiana was infinitely easier than a state that was under Democrat control at the time. In terms of the paperwork, in terms of the fees that you had to pay, it was much easier here. There's a lot less red tape. And if you're a business and you're a Buc-ee's, which you can control your own destiny, why would you go somewhere that's a headache? Why would you want to put your time and effort and resources? Buc-ee's is going to make money wherever they put it. They could put the Buc-ee's atop of Mount Everest, and people would scale the Mount Everest to go to the Buc-ee's, right? It doesn't matter. Look at what happened with the thing in Greenwood. People are like, we're driving from 4 hours away. We can't wait to be there. Like, it is a whole thing. They get to pick and choose. And if you get to pick and choose, why would you choose to be somewhere that's going to cause you problems? That's going to be a hassle, that you're going to have all these rules and regulations and red tape. It's a nightmare. If you never started a business, the way the government allows you to operate, the manner in which it allows you to operate is a huge deal in terms of deciding where you want to go and what you want to do. And to Indiana's credit, compared to, see, people say I never say anything nice about the government. Compared to other states, Indiana is much, much easier to start a business. Now, that could also potentially, maybe open it up to nefarious actors, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. There's some people that have had some concerns about some of the people that have opened a whole bunch of businesses. But I'm just saying, as a small business operator over many, many years, it is easier to do business here than having done so in another state. All right. My new favorite thing, and you guys know this, who've been regular listeners. By the way, it's the Rob Kendall Show. Welcome, Indiana News, Politics, and Government. Can't get anywhere else. We do try to at least take one segment throughout the course of the show and dedicate it to the best audio from around the globe. Keep you on top of what's going on. My new favorite thing is this El Said guy and Hassan Piker, because what the left is showing you with El Said and Hassan Piker is they're as full of it as the regular politicians. See, a lot of times, these hard sides of one party or another, whether it's the left or the right, they want to act like they're above it all, like they can't be corrupted, like they're so wed to their principles that they stand on them no matter what. They're full of it. They're absolutely full of it. You're seeing it. And it's true on both sides, but you're seeing it especially play out on the left now with Abdul El-Said, who is the Democrat candidate for Senate in Michigan, trying to backpedal out, trying to run the bus over, trying to distance himself from this internet streamer, Hassan Piker, who is the new cause du jour of the left. He is the new it guy on the left, and he is a maniac. He is a complete leftist lunatic. He's the guy who said America deserved 9/11. And the left has propped him up as the guy. And this Abdul El-Said, who got the nomination for U.S. Senate in Michigan, was all in with Hassan Piker. Hassan Piker and him were buddies. Piker campaigned for him. He used Piker to get the nomination. Now, well, he's just a guy. But you can't be, well, he's just a guy. I don't understand. I don't get it. It is fascinating to watch these holy rollers, these holier-than-thou people, these people who are supposedly so wed to their principles, when it comes time to win or lose power, throw their buddies under the bus. And we've played you several clips now of Abdul El-Said trying to distance himself from a guy who just a month or two ago, they were amigos. They were palskis. They were friends to the end. And now, well, he's just a streamer, right? I don't get it. Here is Abdul El-Said once again trying to distance himself from Hassan Piker. Now, to the media's credit, because he's in like a media scrum here, they aren't letting him off the hook. And they pointed out, rightfully so, hey, not that long ago, you were campaigning with this dude, and especially Jewish people have a right to know about his relationship, since this guy comes off as a raging anti-Semite to many. Take a listen to this.
I am not interested in a conversation about a social media person in California. And for folks who want to make this race about a social media person in California, let's not forget what actually matters in our politics, what our politics really are about. I don't ever want my comments to hurt anybody's feelings. It's important to me that people understand that I take seriously the pain of all communities in this state. But I don't want to have a conversation about a Twitch streamer in California. It's just not a serious conversation.
Why did you bring him to Michigan?
All right, we already went to Fox News.
Who are you? Fox News?
You
can ask Jesse. You can ask Jesse about that.
I have a question about that too.
All right, you don't want to have that conversation, but there are Jewish voters who do want to have that conversation. And everyone I've talked to has been asking me to ask you whether you will condemn Ron Piper.
I'm happy to have a conversation with my voters. But if they want to have a conversation with the press, I was here. We were having that conversation. I'm just telling you, this is not a campaign that is about a single streamer in California. This is about affordability in Michigan. Anybody who's ever said that they're existentially worried about Donald Trump, anybody who's ever said that they believe in religious pluralism and the right to pray as you choose to pray, all that we hold dear is on the line. It's time for us to unite around taking that on.
See, the problem he's got, it'd be one thing if like Piker was just like, hey, Al Saeed's great. And then Al Saeed's like, I've never heard of this guy, or I'm not friends with this guy, or I've never hung out with this guy, or I've never been buddies with this guy. That's the problem he's got. He has been all of those things. Al Saeed and Piker are connected, and everybody knows it. Like, you can't control who supports you. You can't control. I mean, I saw the couple of these swing state candidates. Kamala Harris was trying to campaign for him to raise money. They're like, no, thanks. No, thank you. Nope. Okay, I'll buy that. If you weren't hanging out or buddies or soliciting support of or whatever from somebody, I'll buy that. Hey, stroke of bad luck, can't control who tries to support you. But Al Saeed and Piker are connected, and they know what a vulnerability Piker is, and trying to go, well, some Twitch streamer in California. Well, he wasn't just a Twitch streamer when you wanted to win the primary. He was the guy. You don't just get to call somebody I was just some Twitch streamer, when not that long ago, he was the guy when you wanted to win votes. And they know, and this is the problem the Democrats have for now, is that the maniacs have taken over the Democrat Party, but they haven't taken over the country yet. The voters are still against socialism. A majority of voters are still, for now, against socialism. And they know that's the problem they got. And this guy's a maniac, and they're trying to backpedal out of it, which brings us to my other new favorite person is Debbie Dingell. Debbie Dingell is John Dingell's wife. John Dingell was in the Michigan House of the U.S. House of Representatives from Michigan for like 9 million years. And Debbie Dingell is his wife. She took over his seat when he passed away. And she is now on a war path about his son, Piker. She's a Democrat. And she knows he's a complete lunatic. And she knows it's hurting this Al Saeed dude. And she knows that the Republicans have nothing to run on. So they're going to run against how crazy factions of the Democrat Party are. And she knows Michigans should go Democrat. But right now, all the polling shows Mike Rogers, the Republicans, in the lead. And listen to this audio. She was on, I think it was MS Now she was on. And here she says she doesn't understand why Hassan Piker has so many followers. Because that's who makes up a whole bunch of the Democrat Party now, lady. Hassan Piker is the Democrat Party. Debbie Dingell doesn't seem to understand this. Take a listen.
Why do you think El Sayed has declined to disavow him?
I've had very blunt conversations. As you all know, I'm a blunt soul.
Yeah, correct.
And I don't understand Hassan Piker. I'm going to be that honest with you.
Many people don't even know who he is.
Well, I didn't until he created this crisis when he came into Michigan months ago. And I stood between some of your colleagues at the back of the room and said, I don't get it. Why does he have so many followers? I believe Israel's got a right to exist. I think that's put kerosene on the fire. And what he has said about women and rape is, okay, you know that's an issue that makes me go sky high. But Republicans are trying to use that, and I want to talk about health care.
Yeah, you're right, lady. They are trying to use it because they got nothing to run on. Good on them. That's smart politics. What do you think they're going to do? Hey, everybody look at the price of gas. Vote for us? No, hell no. They got nothing to run on, so they're going to make your guys look even worse. The problem for the Democrats is when you've got all these elected Democrats, high-profile Democrats, going on these TV shows, and when they get asked about these maniacs, going, well, we're a big tent. Well, we're a party of various ideologies. Well, we're the party of diversity. You're accepting these people into the party. People hear this. They go, okay, I guess that's the Democrat Party now. So you don't get to go, well, I've got huge concerns about this guy when the rest of your colleagues are out there going, well, we want to welcome everyone. This is smart politics by the Republicans. They have nothing to run on. They have nothing to offer the American people. There's no this is it. If you're bad, make everybody believe the other person's worse. It's good politics. All right, so one more piece of audio before we get on with the rest of the show. By the way, we have an update on Jamie Knoll coming up next segment. Jamie Knoll, back into news. So Bill Maher, look, I think Maher's super interesting, and I have for years. Because Maher is super smart. Maher's a liberal, but he's super smart. His IQ is off the charts, I'm sure. And I think Maher's interesting because Maher helped create the anti-Trump monster, and it got away from him. It's like Dr. Frankenstein. Maher helped create the problem. He recognizes what he helped create. Now it can't be controlled, and you can't put the genie back in the bottle. So he speaks out a lot because he knows inevitably they'll come for him. And he doesn't want that. He's a 60-something-year-old white guy who tells humorous jokes and makes observations about society. He is ripe for the left to try to cancel. But he points out in one clip, he does a really good job. On one hand, he points out how ridiculous it is that Trump is focused on renaming Lake Ontario. But then he also points out the hypocrisy of the left being up in arms over someone just going around changing names of things whenever they want, even if it doesn't make any sense. Take a listen.
Why do you think El Sayed has declined to disavow him?
Clip 6.
I've had
Trump is so mad at Canada, he renamed Lake Ontario Lake America. Now I got to buy a new globe again. It's like the 5th time it's happened. And liberals are very pissed at this. They say you can't just go around renaming things to suit your political agenda. Just ask any Latinx birthing person. But the thing...
Yeah, I mean, it's all ridiculous. All of these people are ridiculous. The Republicans, they're not focused. They're in power. They're the people with the control. They're not focused on anything that's benefiting you. Changing the name of Lake Ontario does nothing for you whatsoever. Just like the Gulf of America. And yet the Democrats are such hypocrites that they go screaming about how you can't just go changing the name of things to fit your agenda. Hello. Hi, look in the mirror. Welcome to the Democrat Party. Hey, guys, we got a new sponsor on the Rob Kendall Show. It's Maury Pest Control. It's a locally owned and staffed pest control company that takes pride in knowing your property and solving your challenges. At Maury Pest Control, they can treat all general pests, including mosquitoes, spiders, mice, even the occasional corrupt politician. See what they did there? Maury Pest Control has no long-term contracts, and if you mention the Rob Kendall Show, you're going to receive $25 off your initial Maury service to stop any invasion. Call Maury Pest Control at 574-380-BUGS. That's 574-380-BUGS. Or visit their website at MauryPest.com. That's MORIPEST.com. MORIPEST.com. Maury Pest Control. We welcome them as a new sponsor of the Rob Kendall Show. Hey, guys, help us grow the Rob Kendall Show. Like, share, and subscribe. If you haven't done so yet, little simple things that really help us grow the Rob Kendall Show. Number one, give us that thumbs up. Whether you watch us live on YouTube or on demand on YouTube, give us that thumbs up. Really helps us grow. If you're on an Apple, Spotify, iHeart, thousands of people that tune in there each day, 5-star review really helps us out. Leave us a good written review as well. Share it out. If you got a Facebook, you got a Twitter, let people know we're here. We're covering Indiana news, politics, and government unlike anybody else. And last but certainly not least, subscribe to all the platforms you consume the Rob Kendall Show on. Like, share, and subscribe. That's how you can help us grow. Also want to thank, we got a website. You guys know this? We got a website. RobKendallShow.com. robkendallshow.com. There we got the live link to the YouTube feed. We've got all the on-demand platforms. If you're like, where do I find you guys on Apple? Where do I find you on iHeart? Where do I find you on Spotify? robkendallshow.com. All the links are right there. We've got articles each day from our favorite segments. We turn them into articles, so if you're the reading type, you can read them. And last but certainly not least, we got a support button. If you like what we do and you want to support the Rob Kendall Show, bam, you can do it right there at robkendallshow.com. Want to thank our super generous friends, Wayne and Steve, who hit the support button over at robkendallshow.com this weekend. Thank you to Wayne and Steve. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, Jamie Knoll. We got a Jamie Knoll update. He's in the news. Doesn't get any more corrupt than Jamie Knoll. We'll tell you about it next. You're watching Rob Kendall Show.
Maury Pest Control is a locally owned pest control company that takes pride in knowing your property and solving its challenges. Maury Pest Control services residential and commercial properties, covering all general pests, including mosquitoes, spiders, and mice. Reference The Rob Kendall Show and get $25 off your initial service to stop any invasion. And with Maury Pest Control, there's no long-term contracts. Call Maury Pest Control at 574-380-BUGS, 574-380-BUGS, or visit their website at maurypest.com. That's M-O-R-I Pest. That's M-O-R-I Pest.
Do you have a dog but don't have a fenced-in yard? Your HOA won't allow a fence? Worried about having to watch your furry friend anytime you go outside? Avoid the blazing hot summers and freezing cold winters with All-American Dog Fence. All-American Dog Fence is the cost-effective, easy-to-use, in-ground fence system to keep your dog secure and give you peace of mind anytime they're outside. All-American Dog Fence backs their Pet Stop products with a lifetime warranty. Call or text All-American Dog Fence at 317-862-6606 or visit their website at allamericandogfence.com. Mention the Rob Kendall Show and get $200 off a new installation.
Buying a home or thinking about refinancing? Work with someone local who understands the Central Indiana market. Gary Tedrow with Verity Mortgage helps homebuyers and homeowners explore options for purchasing, refinancing, or even consolidating higher interest debt through their mortgage. Gary's approach is simple, clear advice, and personalized guidance, so you can make confident decisions. Visit loansbygary.homes to learn more or get started today. You've got nothing to lose but dollars on your mortgage payment. So call for a free, no-obligation quote, 317-695-5179. Gary Tedrow, NMLS number 179207 with Verity Mortgage, NMLS number 70345, an equal housing opportunity lender.
Hey guys, welcome back. It's the Rob Kendall Show. Thanks so much for joining us. Don't forget, coming up here in a little bit, Evan Bayh will be with us. You guys, that's going to be a fascinating interview. Can't wait to get your guys' thoughts on that. But first, before we get to, because Jamie Knoll's back in the news, guys, and we've got an interesting op-ed from Nikki Kelly in the Capitol Chronicle on the flock cameras. Don't forget our friends at AJ's Picture Perfect Cleaning. They take incredible pride in cleaning homes and businesses. AJ, she's awesome. We love AJ. She's the owner of, or Amber rather, of the AJ's Picture Perfect Cleaning. Amber is awesome. And she was working for one of the big cleaning companies several years ago. She didn't like the way it was being run. She didn't like the lack of attention to detail, the care with the cleaners. And she said, screw it, I'm starting my own business. And so Amber and AJ's Picture Perfect Cleaning would love to bring their attention to detail and love of a clean place to your home or business. They service all Central Indiana, whether it's a business, whether it's a home. Give them a call, 317-530-8148, 317-530-8148. And if you mention the Rob Kendall Show, you're going to get incredible $50 off your first clean. AJ's Picture Perfect Cleaning, 317-530-8148. All right, we've got a Jamie Knoll update. Oh, and I forgot, be remiss, we didn't welcome in our friends in Northwest Indiana, WJOB Radio. Welcome to you guys, 1230, 104.7 up in the region, the voice of the region. Welcome to you guys, and we're we're hopeful we're going to have some more announcements about other people picking up this program here for you in the near future. We have an update on Jamie Knoll from the Indiana Capital Chronicle. Nearly 2 years after former Clark County Sheriff Jamie Knoll was sentenced to prison for stealing millions in public funds, he and his family members still owe nearly $2.7 million in court-ordered restitution. So, of course, nobody over the past several years has covered Knoll like us. Back on the old radio show, here in the Rob Kendall Show, because Jamie Knoll is a symptom of the Republican Party. Look, Jamie Knoll's a rotten, dishonest, horrible human being who is arguably the most corrupt politician in the history of our state. He stole millions of dollars. But when you watch the documentary, remember that documentary that was on Jamie Knoll on YouTube that we talked about, and we had people who were in the documentary on our program talking about Knoll, you kind of realize Knoll was operating in plain sight. The stuff he was doing seemed pretty brazen, especially for people who knew him, or just should have seemed pretty brazen for the people who knew him. And you kind of realize when you watch this documentary and you read stuff about Knoll, he just believed he was too powerful to be taken down. Jamie Knoll was one of the most powerful Republicans in the state. He was one of the 20 most powerful Republicans in the state. He was one of the leaders of the governor's campaign. He was arguably the governor's closest political ally. And you mean to tell me this guy who's a sheriff is living millions of dollars above his means? And nobody was like, how's he pulling that off? How's he making that work? Think about when, this is the question that's never been answered by Holcomb, is how did he not know? How was arguably his closest political ally and one of his best friends living millions of dollars above his means and the governor didn't know? Really? I mean, the documentary, when you see these people in the documentary, seems kind of like many of them knew or were skeptical. The governor, nothing. All the resources the governor has and nothing. And that question we'll probably never know now because the media would not pin Holcomb down on how he didn't know this was taking place. But I think Jamie Knoll, when we talk about Jamie Knoll, we're talking about who the Republican Party kind of is. Look, we don't know whether any illegal activity has taken place with Diego Morales. Maybe it hasn't. But I know the Attorney General, Todd Rokita, pulled his endorsement because he referred to scandals, plural. I know Jim Banks said he pulled his endorsement because Diego lied to him about hiring a person who was not a U.S. citizen to be his deputy chief of staff, where is she? Where did Alina Cupsey go? How is she just disappeared? Has anyone seen or heard from her? That's kind of wild, isn't it? And again, the media just let the story disappear. Think of all the crap Diego's pulled. The 10-day trip to India that no one still knows to this day who paid for it or exactly what he did there. We do know his buddy Raju went on the trip with him, was bragging about being in India selling visa access. Raju had an $80,000 taxpayer contract with Diego's office. We know a venture capitalist went with Diego. Nobody's done anything about it. We know Diego Morales used state resources to film a campaign commercial. Nobody in the Republican Party's done anything about it. We know Diego Morales has given out huge no-bid contracts to big donors to his campaign. Nobody did anything about it. We know Diego's rolling around in a $90,000 automobile from a guy who's a mega Republican donor. Nobody did anything about it. Hired his brother-in-law, 6-figure salary. Nobody did anything about it. Over and over and over again. Now, maybe ultimately none of it was illegal. Stuff like India, we don't know because Diego won't tell us who paid for the trip. But it's a pattern of behavior that apparently was so bad that the Attorney General pulled his endorsement because of scandals, plural. Whether the behavior is illegal or not, it's behavior that has drawn one public red flag after another, and the Republicans did nothing. Now, they'll tell you, well, we ran some guy against him at convention. Well, that isn't justice for the taxpayers. That's not accountability. That's you guys saving your own ass. That's not helping us. That's helping you. You're not getting the truth about what happened with Diego. You're not finding out exactly what took place. We don't know if any illegal activity took place because it's all been covered up. We can't get to the bottom of any of it. And then people like me who tried to get to the bottom of it, we get villainized. And so you see a pattern of behavior here. You see things like the Three Kings article that came out in the Indy Star last year about these guys who controlled money coming out of the IEDC, the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, and that money was going to businesses they were affiliated with or their friends were affiliated with. I mean, it's a horribly damaging article. It's a pattern of behavior from the Republican Party. Jamie Knoll is a symptom of the Republican Party. So when we talk about Jamie Knoll, we're talking about the Republican Party. Knoll pleaded guilty in 2024 to 27 felony charges, again, going back to the Capitol Chronicle article, including corrupt business influence, theft, tax evasion, and official misconduct. Investigators found that he used money belonging to New Chapel EMS and other public entities to finance vehicles, travel, clothing, college expenses, and other personal spending. Again, I come back to the behavior was so brazen. How did no one look at a guy on a sheriff's salary and go, how's he doing that? What are you doing? Did you make some good investments? Did you get in early on Google? Like, how are you pulling this off? Knoll received a 15-year sentence with 3 years suspended to 3 years suspended to probation. The continuing restitution effort has unfolded across multiple criminal and civil cases while Knoll serves the prison portion of his sentence. Remember, the start of this article, he still owes nearly $2.7 million. Look, he's serving some time in prison, but let's face it, he lived a pretty lavish lifestyle for years. Maybe prison ain't all that bad. I don't know. Washington County court records show that more than $1.26 million from 3 accounts holding proceeds from the Knoll family's liquidated assets was distributed in January. Nearly $978,000 went to the nonprofit organization that operated New Chapel EMS, while roughly $286,000 went towards restitution owed to state and local government agencies. Remember in the documentary where he was so, like, a brazen's the word I keep coming back to, but he was so brazen about it, he was even paying his child support through the funds. Like, that's how obvious he was about all of it, because he just seemed to believe and knew for a period of time nothing was going to happen to him, and it didn't. Nearly $2 million of the remaining debt is Jamie Knoll's alone. Misty Knoll, his now ex-wife, owes the association $586,424, while Casey Knoll, his daughter, owes another $90,600. This is the thing about the Knoll crime syndicate. The family was in on it. It wasn't just Knoll. The wife knew about it. The daughter knew about it. They were all in on it. And if you watch that documentary and you talk to others in law enforcement, there's a lot of people who believe there might have been other people involved with Jamie Knoll that haven't been brought to justice. As of November 2025, auctions and forced property sales had generated more than $2.7 million, although mortgages, liens, commissions, and other expenses reduced the amount available for restitution. A May 2025 auction of 43 classic vehicles alone generated nearly $1.28 million. That's pretty crazy, isn't it? To think this web was so deep and there were so many, when I say involved, I'm not even talking many of these people from a criminal standpoint. I'm talking the mortgages, et cetera, that he had, that even though they've generated all of this money, his level of lies and deceit and manipulation and abuse of the taxpayers and of charities, et cetera, was so deep that he still owes $2.7 million, $2 million, which is his. So that's the latest on Jamie Knoll, still screwing the taxpayers, even from behind prison bars. Hey, Anthony Gary, he owns IndieDwell Real Estate, and he doesn't just list homes for sale. He gets them noticed, he gets them shown, he gets them sold without you losing sleep or sanity. Anthony is a trained negotiator, and he is ready to help you achieve your real estate goals. With Anthony Gary, Indy Dwell Real Estate, you'll never be handed off to an administrator. You get Anthony from start to finish and beyond. Put his expert selling strategy and experience to work for you. Anthony Gary, Indy Dwell Real Estate. Call or text 317-756-1159. 317-756-1159. So our old pal Nikki Kelly has an interesting opinion piece over at the Indiana Capitol Chronicle. And, you know, we told you, we have no problem with people having opinions that are reporters as long as their opinions stay in the opinion section. And the reporting, the honest reporting, the what's supposed to be balanced reporting stays in the reporting section. And I think the Capitol Chronicle do a great job with that. I have I always think reporters aren't supposed to have opinions. Oh, bull. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody has an opinion. The point is, are they following standards? And in the case of the Capitol Chronicle, I think they do a really good job of saying, here's our straight reporting where we try to get all the sides and all the information, and here's our opinion section, and here's our opinion on things. And I don't have any problem. I've never had any problem with the straight reporter having an opinion piece as long as it's in the opinion section. I know what it is when I read it. I accept that reporters are human. They have opinions. So Nikki Kelly, who regularly also, she does reporting for the Capitol Chronicle, but she also does opinion pieces, has an opinion piece, an op-ed on the flock cameras. And this is going to be one of the major issues facing the General Assembly this coming spring. There's a lot of stuff. It's a budget session. It's a long session. So there's a lot of stuff for the General Assembly to cover. But one of the issues they're going to have to tackle are the flock cameras. And Nikki Kelly lays out in this piece, and I thought it was pretty well done, the reason they're going to have to tackle the flock cameras is the General Assembly had multiple opportunities in the past to deal with it, and they refused. Either they didn't want to do it, or special interests got a hold of them, or whatever. There were bills that proposed to deal with the issue. They didn't want to deal with it, and now you got a monster. And now you got everybody pissed off. It was an example of kicking a can down the road. It's just like the data centers. It is amazing the parallel path that the data centers and the flock cameras are running on, in which people don't understand them, people don't trust them, people don't trust the government to use them. And the government didn't want to deal with it, and they put their head in the sand, and now you got outrage. It is incredible, the parallel path that the data center and the flock cameras are running down. So here's what Nikki Kelly wrote about the government's refusal to act all the way back in 2023 and how that has helped facilitate the insanity with the flock cameras. Quote, lawmakers were focusing on data privacy in other areas and resisted efforts to use camera technology for highway speed violations or passing of school buses. But when a former senator cited privacy concerns and filed a bill to establish statewide standards, it died in committee. That left local police agencies to craft their own policies. That's the issue. The local police are always going to do what's best for the local police. I mean, at least almost always. And I don't know. It's hard to blame them, right? Think about your job. If someone told you, here's something that's going to make your job way easier, wouldn't you just do it? Like whatever your job is. If somebody's like, here's this technology that's going to make your job way easier, wouldn't you just take it? It's not illegal. It's not even unethical. The government knows it's there. I mean, now you can argue whether it's right or wrong, and we should have that argument. But it's a public street. It makes your job easier. The government isn't stopping you from doing it. It's legal. You should assume they're going to do it. I mean, I remember this, like, the police are always going to do what's best for the police. They're always going to want the most for the police. It makes sense, right? When I was an elected official, every year, the police would put in their budget, we called it an armored tank. They didn't like that. They got very mad when we called it an armored tank. And every year, they'd put the tank in the budget. You know, it's one of those things the police are behind. They call it APV, Armored Personnel Vehicle. It's one of the, I mean, like, it's got a battering ram on it, and you can't, like, shoot through it, and you can put, like, 9 guys in there. And every year they'd put it in their budget. It was like $250,000 or something like that. And every year we'd pull it out. And the police chief would come and he'd huff and he'd puff. And then he'd say things. And I'd be like, yeah, go ahead and tell me I don't care about law enforcement. My dad was a former federal law enforcement officer. But go ahead and tell me I don't care. Point is, police ask. It was our job as the lawmakers to say, no, you can't have that. You can have a whole bunch of other stuff. You can't have that. And people can say it's right or wrong. You did the right thing, the wrong thing. As a fiscal conservative, I said, I don't think that's a good expense. Eventually, they finally got the thing through. I voted against it when it got through, but after about 3 years, they finally wore enough people down and they got their thing. But point is, you can't blame the police for doing something that's going to be easier for the police. It doesn't mean it's nefarious. They're just like, hey, this will make our job a lot easier. It'll help us solve crimes. It'll help us get information. We're going to do it. You can't blame the police. You got to blame the state that didn't step in and put the standards in. Nikki Kelly goes on to write, Senator Mike Crider, Republican of Greenfield, who chairs the Senate Homeland Security and Transportation Committee, said in 2023 that the issue didn't concern him. Crider is a former law enforcement officer. Crider's also a moron. But that aside, he's a cop. He's a former cop. He's going to side with the cops. He's going to be like, yeah, that makes sense. It'll be easier for the cops. He's not concerned about your privacy. 2 years later, there's a public furor against Flock. And the Capitol Chronicle reported last week that several lawmakers will be filing bills to set guardrails for use of the readers. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a few legislators seek a full ban. Again, it's along the parallel of the data centers. It's amazing how much these two things line up. In government, when a freight train is coming, as an elected person, you got to be able to see the train coming down the tracks. And that is so much of being successful in that field, is being able to see into the future, being able to see the train coming down the tracks. And then if you can see the train coming down the tracks, you recognize you got two options. You can either stand in front of the train and get run over, or you can get on the train and drive the train effectively. With the data centers and the flock cameras, either the legislators, the General Assembly, couldn't see the train coming down the track, or they foolishly decided to put their head in the sand, which is the equivalent of standing in front of the train and getting run over. Either way, with both data centers and the flock cameras, they've created an absolute nightmare. All right. Nikki Kelly then republishes. I thought this was interesting because I think us, the privacy rights people, we sort of only see one side of this. And I've tried to find a middle ground on the flock cameras. I've tried to say there probably is, especially in a world we live in now where criminals can move freely, that we see all sorts of crime in the suburbs coming from the inner city. We see expansions of the suburbs. We see new people moving out here who may not be the best of actors with the best of intentions. And I say, I see a potential need for these to help law enforcement catch these people quicker. Now, I've told you guys, not until we have the privacy rights and concerns figured out. I tend to line up and say that I think the 7 days is plenty of time. If law enforcement can't get the information in 7 days, there's no need for them to have it. That we got to have super strict laws around who can access and how, and anyone who abuses it, they get serious prison time. Any cop who we're going to give this tool to who abuses it should be thrown in prison. No questions asked. No mercy, no leniency. If we're going to give you the ability to do it and you abuse it to stalk someone or find information on someone that has nothing to do with the crime, you go to prison. All of those things need, and more, but for the brevity of this segment, need to be in place. We don't have that right now. But the Capitol Chronicle published an article a while ago from a former police officer, an op-ed on why the flock cameras are necessary. And we try to find the middle here. We try to hear all sides. And I think this is interesting. Here is a little segment of the op-ed that the Capitol Chronicle recently published. It is 3 a.m. The radio crackles with a partial license plate number and a vague description of a sedan that just fled a violent robbery. 10 years ago, that call would have launched a convoy of deputies, troopers, and city officers fanning out across Hamilton County, each one hoping to spot the suspect vehicle before daylight. We burned fuel, tied up manpower, and too often watched the trail go cold. I think that's a fair point. I said this about that documentary I watched on the Koberger murders, the guy who killed the college kids in Idaho. It took law enforcement forever to figure out what sort of car that was, because the crime was committed at night, and they had to piece together camera footage from businesses and homes for miles, because they couldn't get a good shot. They couldn't see what the car was. They couldn't identify, and it took them forever to catch the guy because they didn't know what car they were looking for. And then once they found out what car they were looking for, they caught the guy relatively quickly. I think this is a fair argument from law enforcement. Having the flock cameras, if a crime is committed, will dramatically reduce the burden taxpayers are forced to shoulder. I think that's something we have an interest in. If we're talking about catching dangerous, violent offenders who commit dangerous, violent crimes on other people, we have an interest in that. One, we have an interest in catching them as quick as possible, but two, reducing the cost. The op-ed goes on to say, today the playbook is different. Before a patrol unit even rolls, investigators check the data from license plate readers. If the suspect car passes a fixed or mobile camera in our county, or slips under a reader in Lafayette, Indianapolis, or any partner agency, an alert arrives within seconds. Instead of scattering units in every direction, leaders can send 2 officers to last alert, confirm the plate, and work outward from real-time information. What once took hours now takes minutes, and the odds of arrest rise fast. I think that's compelling. As someone who cares about the safety of a community, I think that's a compelling argument. As someone who's a fiscal conservative, who cares about taxpayer resources, who cares about taxpayer money, I think that's a compelling argument. The same way as I think the need for data centers in our society is obvious. I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say they don't exist. What I'm not willing to do is, whether it's flock cameras or data centers, sign a blank check. I'm not willing to just hand over the keys to something without strict rules and guardrails and regulations, which don't exist on either right now. Both things can be true. We can have something that will help society and need to make sure that the oversight is immense and very strict. Both things can be true. We can't find a center ground. Nikki Kelly sort of closes her op-ed sort of talking about that. Like anything, though, a few bad apples can give an innovative tool a bad name. That includes officers conducting searches for personal reasons. So usage needs to be strictly controlled and data needs to be routinely purged. Right. The flock cameras cannot go forward until this is dealt with. She goes on to say, I don't personally buy into the idea that these readers are some sort of privacy violation. People are driving on public roadways when they are recorded and have no expectation of privacy. Plus, if you aren't doing anything wrong, you have little to be worried about. Well, okay, that's true, but I don't think if you aren't doing anything wrong and you don't have anything to worry about is not a reason to have very strict guidelines around the flock cameras. You still have an interest. We have an interest in government being controlled, government being policed, government having oversight, whether you're doing something wrong or not. So I thought it was an interesting op-ed. I thought especially the sort of testimonial, for lack of a better word, from the law enforcement officer was pretty convincing. And I think that's going to be a major issue for the General Assembly this coming year, is to find the sweet spot on parameters, on guardrails around the flock cameras. Hey, whether you're buying your first rental property or growing an investment portfolio, financing matters. Gary Tedrow with Verity Mortgage helps investors explore loan options designed for rental properties and long-term wealth building. As a local mortgage advisor, Gary works one-on-one with investors to help them understand their financing options and create a strategy that fits their goals. Learn more at loansbygary.homes. Loansbygary.homes. Gary Tedrow, Verity Mortgage, Garrity. Gary Tedrow, Verity Mortgage, NMLS number 179207, equal housing lender. Gary Tedrow, Verity Mortgage, NMLS number 179207, equal housing lender. All right. Don't forget, guys, coming up here in a little bit, Evan Bayh, former governor, former senator, is going to join us. It's going to be a fascinating conversation. Plus, Trump trying to sick the FCC on a broadcaster for saying his results are mixed. Yeah, this is wild. And it's hella scary for somebody who used to be on the radio. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're watching Rob Kendall Show.
Maury Pest Control is a locally owned pest control company that takes pride in knowing your property and solving its challenges. Maury Pest Control services residential and commercial properties, covering all general pests, including mosquitoes, spiders, and mice. Reference The Rob Kendall Show and get $25 off your initial service to stop any invasion. And with Maury Pest Control, there's no long-term contracts. Call Maury Pest Control at 574-380-BUGS, 574-380-BUGS, or visit their website at MauryPest.com. That's M-O-R-I Pest. That's M-O-R-I Pest.
Do you have a dog but don't have a fenced-in yard? Your HOA won't allow a fence? Worried about having to watch your furry friend anytime you go outside? Avoid the blazing hot summers and freezing cold winters with All-American Dog Fence. All-American Dog Fence is the cost-effective, easy-to-use in-ground fence system to keep your dog secure and give you peace of mind anytime they're outside. All-American Dog Fence backs their Pet Stop products with a lifetime warranty. Call or text All-American Dog Fence at 317-862-6606 or visit their website at allamericandogfence.com. Mention The Rob Kendall Show and get $200 off a new installation.
Buying a home or thinking about refinancing? Work with someone local who understands the central Indiana market. Gary Tedrow with Verity Mortgage helps homebuyers and homeowners explore options for purchasing, refinancing, or even consolidating higher interest debt through their mortgage. Gary's approach is simple, clear advice, and personalized guidance, so you can make confident decisions. Visit loansbygary.homes to learn more or get started today. You've got nothing to lose but dollars on your mortgage payment. So call for a free, no-obligation quote, 317-695-5179. Gary Tedrow, NMLS number 179207 with Verity Mortgage, NMLS number 70345, an equal housing opportunity lender.
Hey guys, welcome back. It's the Rob Kendall Show. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're having a great Monday. Indiana news, politics, and government you're not going to get anywhere else. Evan Bayh, former governor, former senator, are going to join us here in just a little bit. And man, like I said, that's going to be a fascinating conversation. We're going to ask him about almost becoming vice president. It came down to him and Joe Biden. We're going to ask him what the interview with Obama was like, how they made the decision, how he got notified, all of that. Like, it's fascinating stuff. Evan Bayh was there for the impeachment of Bill Clinton, the trial. What was that like? We're going to ask about the government's response to 9/11 that he was there for, the government's response to the 2008 financial crisis. We'll ask him, of course, about his son running for Secretary of State. All of that coming up in just a little bit with former governor and Senator Evan Bayh. And Evan doesn't do a lot of long-form interviews. We were pretty excited to get this because he doesn't do a whole bunch of long-form interviews anymore. So it was great to have this chat. Hey, coming up this week, if you're looking for an opportunity for lunch or dinner, check out our friends at Double D's Barbecue in Clayton. Right there where 40 and 39 come together. If you're looking for authentic wood-smoked Memphis-style barbecue, Double D's is the place for you. Ribs, brisket, and more. They're not screwing around when it comes to the barbecue. Winner best ribs, best sauce at Rib Fest in Hendricks County. And Tina, Dennis, the owners, they're huge supporters of our show. We love those guys. Check it out for yourself. I'm going to try to get out there. I got to get with C Mills. I think Wednesday night I'm going to try to take C Mills to dinner. Super chatter, C Mills. He's had a rough few weeks. And so maybe I'll let you guys know. I think I'll know later today whether we're going to be able to do that or not. But anyway, whether we go or not this week, which we're planning on it, ribs, brisket, and more, ddbbq317.com, ddbbq317.com. All right. This next story concerns me, guys, because regardless of what your political opinion is or your opinion of politicians is, you have the right to express it. Simply saying something a politician doesn't like shouldn't get you in trouble. As long as you're not threatening anyone, you're not, defaming somebody. And with politicians, they're the highest standard on this stuff, right? And the Supreme Court has recognized that repeatedly, that it's almost impossible to defame a politician because it's the highest level. You have the right to have an opinion about your politicians. And whether that's a liberal expressing an opinion or a conservative expressing an opinion or a moderate expressing an opinion, they have the right to do it, and we should defend it. And when that gets threatened, that becomes a big deal because eventually they'll come for us, or eventually the other side will be in power and they'll come for us. And it really appears like the president is threatening to weaponize the FCC against people who say things about him he doesn't like. From the Hill. President Trump said Sunday that NBC News' Meet the Press host Kristen Welker will be reported to the Federal Communications Commission after she reportedly said that Trump-endorsed candidates have had mixed results this election cycle. Now, just a reminder, Trump has lost numerous races that he's endorsed. They include Representative Corey Mills in Florida, Andy Ogles, Republican of Tennessee, Michigan's Amir Hassan was running for a House seat. The Trump endorsed him. He lost one in Iowa. I mean, there's quite a few he's lost. He lost one in Oklahoma. Was it Oklahoma? I mean, there's several that Trump, now he wins the majority of them. He should. He's the frickin' president. That shouldn't be news that if the president endorses you, you win a primary. Point is, there have been numerous ones that he's endorsed and the person hasn't won. And so Kristen Welker said he's had mixed results, which it kind of has been. I mean, if we accept the premise that the president should probably win about 95% of the races he endorses in because he's the frickin' president, it's just presidents haven't endorsed like Trump the volume of Trump endorsements in the past. I think you would say if we set the baseline of the president of the United States should get about 95% right, Trump's had a mixed bag. There's nothing slanderous or liable or defamatory or untrue about it. He's had a mixed bag. He's lost several high-profile races, especially recently. It's certainly not something that the federal government should be involved in policing. Trump wrote, quote, I believe this was on Truth. Kristen Welker, the unpopular hostess of the once great Meet the Press, now considered Meet the Fake Press, just stated that Donald Trump has had mixed results on his endorsements of candidates when the recent wins of Darlene Graham and Mike Mazzei stand at 100% for U.S. Senate and 98% for the U.S. House recently and over the long term, the president wrote on Truth social media. Again, you're the president. You should win the overwhelming majority of races you endorse in. If just the absolute worst you could do is 95%, and you're at 98% in the House races, and he's lost a couple, I think he lost for governor and some others, it's kind of a mixed bag. He goes on to say, quote, how can anyone be allowed to say this? Working for freely given public airwaves. Results are attached. Because of this purposeful inaccuracy, she will be reported to the FCC for rebuke or punishment. All right. I'm going to ask this as someone who's been in this business for almost 25 years. And Jason, you've been in it longer than I have. You can correct me if you're like, Rob, you're way out of bounds by asking this question. Okay. I've owned a radio station, followed all applicable FCC rules and standards and forms have filled out and, all the stuff, right? I know a few things about the FCC. Worked in the radio business for the better part of 25 years. Never been fined. Never even been dumped, guys. How about that for amazing? How about that for amazing? In all the years I've been doing radio, you ever been dumped? No. The dump button. No. Yeah. I mean, We try to stay way within the line, so I'm pretty familiar with the FCC rules and regulations. So I'm asking this question as someone with a great deal of experience. What in the world does that even mean? She will be reported to the FCC for rebuke or punishment. In the 25 years I've been a broadcaster, I'm not really familiar with the FCC ever punishing an individual broadcaster, much less for giving an opinion. But I'm talking about period. Normally it's the stations that get fined. Like I don't ever remember a broadcaster getting fined. I don't know. I'm trying to think if Stern was fined, but I think it's the station. It's the stations. They run it. The broadcast. Yeah, ask your friends on the AI or the Chat GPT. Ask them if they've heard of anything about that. I don't know. Yeah, use that data center. Put the data centers to use. Maybe that has happened, but it would have to be some hyper egregious thing. I've never heard of that, and I've been around this business a long time, but certainly not for giving an opinion. Trump went on to write, according to The Hill, in his post, that he hopes FCC Chair Brendan Carr and the other commissioners, quote, will take this threat to our country very seriously, referring to the media's coverage of his endorsement record. What threat to the country? Jason is saying the ChatGPT AI confirming what we have said, that it is usually just the station. I've never heard of this. Yeah, I mean, the station might fire the broadcaster. Station might, I guess they could fine the broadcaster, suspend the broadcaster, which is what usually happens to try to get mercy from the FCC. But I've never take somebody off the airwaves for giving an opinion? What the hell are we doing? Like, I don't care what party you are. I don't care what political affiliation you are. This should scare the hell out of you. This woman has a right. I mean, look, we've laid out to you, and there are several others, races Trump endorsed in that he lost. He hasn't gotten every single endorsement right. It's also weird he endorses in the amount of races he endorses in. Like, you know, Indiana Senate races where he wouldn't know the person if they walked in front of him. This is a real insight into Trump's psyche, and it's kind of scary that he's this worried about freedom of speech, that he's this worried that this person exists on public airwaves. If you don't want to like her politics, fine. She's probably a liberal. I don't know. I don't watch Meet the Press. We play clips for you if there's something interesting. I don't know. But she has the right to be a liberal, and NBC has the right to employ her or not employ her. And then the people have the right to watch or not watch. And then NBC can keep her employed or not employ her based on if the advertisers respond. Look, people who own radio stations do stupid stuff all the time. They fire people for no reason all the time. Hi, I'm Rob Kendall. Nice to meet you. And sometimes the decisions to fire people, you know, might tank their ratings by like 33% if that happens somewhere. I don't know. Has that ever happened? I don't know. But it's their right to do it. They own the station. You hire who you want. You keep somebody if you want. People get fired for all sorts of reasons. Like, that's their right as an employer. They have the right to employ her. You as the FCC or you as the federal government have the right to set standards, which are, community, what they call generally community standards, community decency standards. It's, profanity laws. It's, graphic sexual descriptions, things like that. I mean, in the modern era, the FCC has become lenient on a lot of stuff with the language, too. Now, if you're out dropping F-bombs in the middle of the day, you're going to get fined. But you can use a whole bunch of words you used to really not even be able to use. It's pretty hard to get fined in the modern era. You got to do some pretty brazen stuff. Either you're using super bad language, sexually graphic descriptions, there's certain things with deceit, things of that nature, like, you can look the rules up for yourself, but it's pretty hard to get fined. You got to do some pretty brazen stuff to get fined in the modern era by the FCC. I've never heard, and it looks like the internet is backing me up, of a broadcaster being, what was the exact term he used? It was so weird. Rebuke or punishment. The FCC does not rebuke broadcasters. Hey, you've been rebuked. What the hell does that even mean? And what threat to the country is this? This woman saying you have a mixed record in your endorsements, even if she were 100% wrong, even if you'd gotten every endorsement right, that is not a threat to the country. You know what is a threat to the country? Oil being $90 or $100 a barrel or more. That's a threat to the country. This is craziness to me. Like, what and where and why is no one speaking out on our side against this? Like, I don't care whether you're the biggest Trump supporter in the world. You should be like, absolutely not. This is ridiculous. Because the Democrats, let's just say, figured out a way to do this, to rebuke, or what was the other? It's so weird. It wasn't even a broadcaster term. Rebuke or punishment. Let's say he figured out a way to rebuke or punish Kristen Welker. You think when the Democrats get control of the government again, or the presidency again, which they will, maybe next term, they wouldn't do the same thing to Hannity or Glenn Beck or Mark Levin? That's nuts. Then it gets even more crazy. According to Yahoo, he begged the FCC to intervene over the reporting on his low polling numbers. According to Yahoo, Trump complains someday that something must be done, about, quote, fake polls used by news media. Quote, FCC to the rescue, he wrote in all caps on his social media post. One, the FCC doesn't have control over polling. Two, media outlets for generations have reported on polling. Some they conduct, some they don't, on public airwaves. No one's ever said a word. And the FCC has no control over cable stations or print media. Like, this is nuts, guys. I want the president to do well. I want the president to succeed. I want our country to thrive. I voted for Trump 3 times. This is insanity. And it sucks, right, that my choices last time were Trump or Kamala. Like, I didn't say I enthusiastically voted for Trump 3 times. The other was unacceptable, but this is nuts. And the great thing about our show is we call balls and strikes. This should scare the hell out of everyone. This is thought police stuff. This is stymieing free speech. This is intimidation. This is bullying. It's nuts. She's a broadcaster. She's a commentator. She's a talk show host. She has a right to an opinion the same way I do. If you don't like it, you can go somewhere else, which you probably should. It sounds like it may not be a great program. That's your right. You vote with your eyeballs. And if you think she's biased or you think she's manipulative or with her presentation or whatever, right? Then don't do it. But simply saying some guy has a mixed record when he has lost several high-profile races, that is not something you sick the federal government on. That is craziness to me. Hey, Honeysuckle Hill Bistro. Open for dinner on Friday, dinner on Saturday, brunch buffet on Sunday. If you're looking for something different, something a little out of the way, check out our friends at the Honeysuckle Hill Bistro and Cottage on the water in beautiful Brazil. Scenic view. Chance to get away, relax, made from scratch meal. Owners Jody and Andy, they are awesome. They're huge supporters of our show. And don't forget the cabin as well. It's more than just the restaurant. You can also make a weekend of it. The Cottage offers 3 bedrooms, 2 baths with spa-like tile showers, full kitchen, living room with a fireplace, laundry facilities, and a full deck overlooking the lake. And if you stay at the Cottage, Andy, one of the owners, delivers breakfast 8:30 in the morning in a picnic basket. How about that? Plan the perfect weekend away at the scenic Honeysuckle Hill property on the water in beautiful Brazil. You can check it all out. Just Google Honeysuckle Hill Bistro. Honeysuckle Hill Bistro. And if you want to throw in Ann Cottage, you can do that too. But Honeysuckle Hill Bistro will get you where you want. You can see the full menu for the restaurant, see pictures of the cottage, and reserve your getaway whether it's at the restaurant or the cottage. 812-443-3003. 812-443-3003. All right, we'll take a break. Don't forget, coming up here in just a little bit, we're going to speak with Evan Bayh, former governor and senator from the great state of Indiana. So we'll take a break. We'll be back. You're watching Rob Kendall Show.
Right now, everything's expensive. That includes things you need around the house. If your water heater, water softener, or well pump goes out, or even if your toilet stops working, you could be looking at a major expense. Don't let your next call to a plumber break the bank. Call John at Black Sheep Plumbing. John is a Hoosier lifer who takes pride in and stands behind his work. That's why all basic services and repairs with Black Sheep Plumbing come with a 2-year parts and labor guarantee, with water heaters having a 6-year parts and tank guarantee. Call or text Black Sheep Plumbing for all your needs today and speak directly with John, the owner. 765-315-7558. That's Black Sheep Plumbing at 765-315-7558.
I'm Anthony Gary. I started Indy Dwell Real Estate because too many friends, family members, and neighbors had real estate experiences that lacked compassion, explanation, and expertise. You deserve someone in your corner with the heart of a teacher, simplifying every step of the buying or selling process. When you hire me, you get me. Start to finish, you'll never be handed off. No stress, no surprises, just the expert guidance and results you deserve. Anthony Gary, Indy Dwell Real Estate. Call or text 317-756-1159. 317-756-1159.
With a lakefront view in beautiful Brazil, the Honeysuckle Hill Bistro and Cottage is a little out of the way, but totally worth the trip. Down home, made from scratch food, just like the good old days at Grandma's. When you visit the Honeysuckle Hill Bistro and Cottage, you'll leave more at peace than when you came in. Open 5 to 8 for dinner on Friday and Saturday, and Sundays 11 to 1:30 for the buffet. You must experience the Honeysuckle Hill Bistro and Cottage. Call 812-443-3. All right, well, welcome back, guys. We may go ahead and just dump out of here a little early today. Do we want to take one final break and see if it'll fix itself? Is it working? I told you it was that router. We'll see. I don't know. Hey, guys, welcome back. It's the Rob Kendall Show. Thanks so much for joining us. We don't know. We told you guys from the beginning. We said, look, when we started this show 6 months ago, we said, look, we're on an adventure together. We don't pretend to be anything that we aren't. Maybe it'll work every single day. Maybe it won't. And pretty much, I think only one time in 6 months, which is pretty amazing. One time in 6 months that we've had an issue with the internet. And we had that power outage one time too. We had the power outage one time. And then other than that, everything's worked pretty good. I thought it'd be AES that would take us down. I didn't think it'd be the internet. So here's what happened. So we were here in the break, we're moving things around. I said, Jason, what if you just plug that thing directly into the computer versus going through that? And it looks like it's working. Oh, great. Well, welcome back. It's the Rob Kendall Show. Thanks so much for joining us. As long as we stay good, then we will play the Evan Bayh interview for you coming up at 11 o'clock. If we don't stay good, then we'll play it for you tomorrow. How about that for preparation? You know, I was thinking about, like, when we were sitting there, I was like, the one time when we were in the new studio at the old radio show, their new studios, everything was broke in the beginning. Not like it was, you know, and that's natural, right? You don't know what's going on. And there was one day you're on the air, boom, and then none of the mics are working. And nobody can figure out why the mics are working because you're scouring trying to find an engineer. And I said, wait a second. I know the mic in the control room is working because I heard the morning show producer was on the air and it was working. So I went in there and in the control room in the morning show for the morning show and did the show from there. I done in broom closets. I've been all over the place. It don't bother me. It's the Rob Kendall Show. Thanks so much for joining us. We're back, and I don't think we got a chance to mention because I don't know if we were on or not. But let me tell you about our friends at All American Dog Fence, and then we'll get rolling with the rest of the program. Do you have a dog but don't have a fenced-in yard? Maybe your HOA won't allow a fence? Worried about having to watch your furry friend anytime you go outside? Avoid the blazing hot summers and freezing cold winters with All American Dog Fence. All American Dog Fence is the cost-effective, easy-to-use, in-ground fence system designed to keep your dog secure and give you peace of mind anytime they're outside. All American Dog Fence, locally owned. Call or text All American Dog Fence at 317-862-6606 or visit their website at allamericandogfence.com. Allamericandogfence.com. They back their Pet Stop products up, designed and manufactured in the United States with a lifetime warranty. 317-862-6606. 317-862-6606. Mention the Rob Kendall Show and get an incredible $200 off your order simply by mentioning the Rob Kendall Show. Do I get a thumbs up to keep going? Oh, great. Well, okay. We're good to go. And so we're planning on, unless something breaks again, having the Evan Bayh interview for you coming up at 11 o'clock today. It was so funny. We go to the break in the business. We're like, don't talk about technical difficulties. We're a podcast. We're not in the business. We're in the business of having fun with you guys. And we go to the break, and I always try to kind of check on the show and try to get a few comments from the YouTube chat. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, Jason, my audio sounds fine, but I'm kind of twitching, man. He's like, what do you mean you're kind of twitching? I was like, I don't think I look like that. He's like, it's probably just your phone. I was like, well, you look at it. He goes, hey, it's doing it on mine too. And I was like, oh, it's doing it on everyone's. Oh, this is a disaster. All right. Okay, let me get back here ready to go. Oh, gosh. And just a reminder, all the interviews that we post here on run here on the Rob Kendall Show, we post them back for any time on-demand listening. So if you miss any of them live, you can go back and watch them anytime you want. So like on Friday, tons of hits on that Lee Markham interview. Of course, Lee Markham, the former CEO of Jack's Donuts, and of course, he's attempting this huge comeback. And so a lot of people very interested, the decline of Jack's Donuts, how he's coming back in the coffee business. Any of the interviews that we do here on the Rob Kendall Show, you can watch them via the video tab on our YouTube channel anytime you want. All right. Why don't we do this real quick? Can we just take a quick break? We'll reset everything, and then I'll get everything teed up for the Evan Bayh interview. All right, let's just take a quick break, 2 minutes. We'll figure out where we're at with everything, and then we'll get everything teed up for the Evan Bayh interview, which is coming your way in just a few moments. We'll take a break, be back. You're watching Rob Kendall Show.
Right now, everything's expensive. That includes things you need around the house. If your water heater, water softener, or well pump goes out, or even if your toilet stops working, you could be looking at a major expense. Don't let your next call to a plumber break the bank. Call John at Black Sheep Plumbing. John is a Hoosier lifer who takes pride in and stands behind his work. That's why all basic services and repairs with Black Sheep Plumbing come with a 2-year parts and labor guarantee, with water heaters having a 6-year parts and tank guarantee. Call or text Black Sheep Plumbing for all your needs today and speak directly with John, the owner. 765-315-7558. That's Black Sheep Plumbing at 765-315-7558.
I'm Anthony Gary. I started Indy Dwell Real Estate because too many friends, family members, and neighbors had real estate experiences that lacked compassion, explanation, and expertise. You deserve someone in your corner with the heart of a teacher, simplifying every step of the buying or selling process. When you hire me, you get me. Start to finish, you'll never be handed off. No stress, no surprises, just the expert guidance and results you deserve. Anthony Gary, Indy Dwell Real Estate. Call or text 317-756-1159. 317-756-1159.
With a lakefront view in beautiful Brazil, the Honeysuckle Hill Bistro and Cottage is a little out of the way, but totally worth the trip. Down home, made from scratch food, just like the good old days at Grandma's. When you visit the Honeysuckle Hill Bistro and Cottage, you'll leave more at peace than when you came in. Open 5 to 8 for dinner on Friday and Saturday, and Sundays 11 to 1:30 for the buffet. You must experience the Honeysuckle Hill Bistro and Cottage. Call 812-443-3003. 812-443-3003. It always all happens on the same day, doesn't it? Right? I mean, it was kind of a weird day anyway. So look, coming up here in just a few moments, we're going to play our interview with Evan Bayh. It's a fascinating conversation. One I think you guys are really going to enjoy. We talk about all the things. We talk about the time he was almost picked as vice president, which was incredibly interesting. We talk about the government's response to 9/11. We talk about the government's response to the 2008 financial collapse, a whole bunch of different stuff. We obviously talk about his son running for Secretary of State. And I just think Evan Bayh is one of the most interesting people when you look at the family that he came from. And his father ran for president. His father was a famous U.S. senator. I think the whole thing is just super interesting. I think you guys are going to love this conversation. Now, a couple things. One, just so happened, I have a dentist appointment today. You know, we don't take days off here. So we debate, like, should we even do the show Monday? I said, we don't take days off unless it's a holiday. We come here, we deliver. So we're doing the show today. I was going to have to duck out a little early, so we were planning on playing the interview coming up for you here in just a few moments. So we're not going to have a YouTube chat reading today, but we want you guys to comment on the Bayh interview, and then tomorrow we'll make good on those. We'll read those tomorrow. So no YouTube chat after at the end of the show today, brought to you by Black Sheep Plumbing. Instead, we'll say the Evan Bayh interview, brought to you by Black Sheep Plumbing, our great friend John McKinney, as well as the YouTube chat. But since there's no YouTube chat today, we'll just say the Evan Bayh interview, brought to you by Black Sheep Plumbing. So, we'll, and it's like, they told me my dentist appointment was coming. I was like, really? Already? It's time again? It's been 6 months since I saw you people last. So we'll have the interview with Evan Bayh coming up here in just a moment. No YouTube chat, but we will read some of those comments tomorrow. If you want to get them in the YouTube chat, tomorrow we'll get them, because I think you guys are going to be very interested in this. You're going to want to hear what he has to say. And we want to read some of those comments and that feedback. Also, just a reminder, wherever you're listening to us at, wherever you're hearing us from, you can always get us on demand as well. You don't have to just watch us on YouTube. We're on Apple. We're on Spotify. We're on iHeart. We're at all of the places where you can check out the Rob Kendall Show. You can subscribe to those channels. And to see every place you can get the show, just head over to robkendallshow.com. robkendallshow.com. All the lists are there. We'd love to get a subscription from you. We'd love to have you join us there. Lots of people checking us out. They never hear us live. They're like, oh, you're on live. I never knew about that. They get us on all the on-demand platforms, so we're excited for that. Also want to thank a couple of our fabulous sponsors. Before we get you to the Evan Bayh interview, they include Anthony Gary. He owns Indy Dwell Real Estate, and he doesn't just show houses. He finds you homes with everything you're looking for, explains your options, and gets your offer accepted without you losing sleep or sanity. Anthony's an expert negotiator, ready to help you achieve your real estate goals. You'll never be handed off to an administrator. You get Anthony from start to finish and beyond. Put Anthony Gary's expert buying strategy and experience to work for you. Anthony Gary, Indy Dwell Real Estate, 317-756-1159, 317-756-1159. Okay, I think we're ready to do it. Jason feels cautiously optimistic that the internet's going to hold up. If for some reason it doesn't, we'll play the full thing in its entirety tomorrow. But for now, we'll cross our fingers and hope that that we can deliver the Evan Bayh interview for you. We want to thank, because we'll be well into the third hour by the time the interview wraps up, we want to thank John Rust, who brings us our third hour every single day. We couldn't do it without him. Thank you to John Rust for bringing us the third hour. And don't forget, if you haven't done so yet, the big event at the Palatial Rust Estate in beautiful, in the greater Seymour area, is October the 3rd. It's a celebration for you, the Rob Kendall Show listeners and viewers. It's totally free to attend. There's going to be lunch catered by Double D's. There's going to be patriotic music. There's going to be an antique car show. There's going to be birthday cake for Jason's birthday and a whole bunch more. It's going to be fun. It's totally free to attend. All you got to do, send an email, rustforamerica@gmail.com. Send an email, rustforamerica@gmail.com. Let John know how many people, your name, and how many people you're bringing with you. That's all you got to do. And then you're in, and there's going to be hundreds of Rob Kendall Show listeners and viewers who have already RSVP'd. We can't wait to see you guys on Saturday, October the 3rd, Palatial Rust Estate in the greater Seymour area, rustforamerica@gmail.com. And thanks to John Rust for bringing us our third hour. All right, we'll take a break. Evan Bayh is going to join us when we come back. You're watching Rob Kendall Show.
I'm Anthony Gary. I started Indy Dwell Real Estate because too many friends, family members, and neighbors had real estate experiences that lacked compassion, explanation, and expertise. You deserve someone in your corner with the heart of a teacher, simplifying every step of the buying or selling process. When you hire me, you get me. Start to finish, you'll never be handed off. No stress, no surprises, just the expert guidance and results you deserve. Anthony Gary, Indy Dwell Real Estate. Call or text 317-756-1159. 317-756-1159.
Did you know Honeysuckle Hill in Brazil offers more than just a fabulous made-from-scratch meal at the bistro? It also has an adjoining cottage, great for a perfect, relaxing weekend away with a scenic waterfront view. The cottage offers 3 bedrooms, 2 baths with spa-like tile showers, full kitchen, living room with fireplace, laundry facilities, and a full deck overlooking the lake. And Andy, one of the owners, delivers breakfast in a picnic basket at 8:30 each morning. Plan the perfect weekend away at the scenic Honeysuckle Hill property on the water in beautiful Brazil. Book today by visiting their website at honeysucklehillb.com. Welcome back. It's the Rob Kendall Show. Look who it is. Former governor, former senator for the state of Indiana, from the state of Indiana, the great Evan Bayh. Hello, Governor.
Rob, it's great to be with you.
Now, I asked you this, it's like once a governor, always a governor, but you got 2. You've got governor and senator. Which one do we go with?
Well, Rob, that's an easy question to answer. Do you know what Congress's job approval rating is these days? So governor sounds pretty good to me. Besides, governors do things. You get things done, and Congress have become just too contentious and all that sort. So I like both. Both are an honor, but I prefer governor.
All right, Governor Evan Bayh, your son is running for the same office that you captured 40 years ago. You see sports stars when they get interviewed at like college football games or they're watching their kids play, and they say it's way harder to watch my kid play versus do it myself because I have no control. As a parent, he's in the field that you were in or attempting to enter. Is it hard as a dad to be on the sidelines and watch?
Occasionally it is, Rob. And we had long talks before he decided to do this, and I'm a regular viewer, as we were discussing.
You're our one. We found you.
I am. And so one of your previous guests said, wonder if he felt compelled to do this because of the family and all that kind of thing. That's not it at all. And my son doesn't have daddy issues. He's not trying to live up to that, or granddaddy issues. You've met him. He's a humble, nice young, he's not an egotist. He genuinely wants to try and help our state and country and do what he can. That's why he joined the Marine Corps. But as a part of these talks, I said to him, buddy, there are a lot of ways to try and make the world a better place without running for public office. You can start a business that employs people. You can go into academia. You can go into, there are all sorts of things you can do. Going in the Marine Corps is one of those things. You don't have to run for public office. And I said, it's gotten so who would want to see their child
Yeah.
walk into the open sewer that some social media has become, right? And I see it from time to time, the things that are said. So, yeah, sometimes it's hard.
So you didn't like tell him you need to do this. He came to you and you kind of try to talk him out of it.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I wanted to make sure he was going into it with his eyes wide open, because it is, the old saying is politics ain't beanbag. That's always been true. But now, with the advent of social media, there's just a lot of hate and anger and just a lot of flat out falsehoods online. And, but, and I'll tell you what I admire. And it's not that he's being successful and all that kind of thing, which I hope he will be. But the final thing, as we were talking about, he said, I can live with losing, but I think I will always regret it if I don't try.
Yeah.
And so I said at that point, well, then you should. Good for you. And so I admire the fact he is actually putting himself in the arena, trying to make a difference, trying to do the right thing for our state. And then it's up to the voters.
You have largely stayed on the sidelines so far. I mean, it's one of the few interviews you've done so far where we're talking about him. Why have you taken? I think a lot of people thought, well, Evan Bayh is going to be everywhere. You're going to see him everywhere with his son. You've let him do his own thing. Why?
Well, I think it's important that he be his own man, and he is his own man. So, look, he'll pick up the phone and call me from time to time and say, if there's an issue that I had some experience with, to get my take on things. And by the way, you've got a young daughter. When she grows up, she won't always accept your advice.
She doesn't now.
That's part of the deal. But yeah, he's got a good team of people around him. He's got a good head on his shoulders, and he's capable of making these decisions. So my deal with him is it's a lot like I don't know if you're old enough to remember a congressman named Andy Jacobs.
Yeah.
Andy was great.
Yeah.
Served the Indianapolis area. He was at the Chosin Reservoir in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
I went to Andy when I first was running for Secretary of State and asked if Andy would be for me. And his response, Rob, was he said, Evan, he said, I'll be for you or against you, whichever helps you the most. So my deal with my son is, if I can help you by going someplace, I'll do it. But if not, I'll just stay in the background.
So what,
like for example, the other night, the debate, I would love to, just as his father, be sitting in the back of the audience just to see it. But that would have been distracting.
Yeah.
And, it's not about me. It's about him. And so I watched the stream at home. But, so, yeah, he's his own man.
We can watch the next one together, because that's the way I do it, too.
Well, you said, you actually make comments during the debates.
Yeah, I scream at the TV while it's going on.
I was tempted to, but I didn't.
Yeah, so I think people think about okay, it's the Bayhs, it's a political dynasty, his grandfather, his dad. And in my mind, it's like you guys just always talk politics. I'm sure that's not the way it is. You guys have some regular family type of structure.
We do, and I was an active father with him growing up. We did a lot of his sports things. Bo was a good athlete. His mom handled the academic side. I tended to handle going to the basketball games, the hockey games. He ended up being a good lacrosse player, which was a sport I knew nothing about. But when he was a 10-year-old, he said, Dad, I get to beat on people with a stick. I said, well, okay, that sounds like something a 10-year-old boy might be interested in. But yeah, we occasionally, there's a really lovely memorial to my late wife at Holiday Park on the north side of Indianapolis. And we'll occasionally go there and put flowers and think about her. And we do normal things, having dinner together, just talking about stuff.
You went to the bistro, the Honeysuckle Hill Bistro, and people were like, the Bayhs are here, and they're just sitting having dinner. And I was like, yeah, they are normal people, right? I mean, you take away the politics side of it, you are just people.
2 years ago, when the Pacers were making their playoff run, we attended a couple of those games. I'd like to get down to, I'm old enough, I remember when I was a basketball school, but I'd like to take him down. We can go down, maybe see a football game sometime this fall for the defending national champions.
Evan Bayh, former governor for the state of Indiana, is our guest. Your dad obviously was a super prominent voice in politics in this country. Did he have the same approach you did with Bo, which is hey, if you want to do it, here's what you're in for. You make your own course. Or did he want you to enter into the same profession that he was in?
No, it's the same thing, Rob. And I've tried to treat my son the same way my father treated me, which is, look, I love you. And it means more to me than I can possibly say that you love me and hopefully respect me. But if you're going to do this, it's got to be you, and it's got to be authentic and real for you, and not just trying to live out the hopefully the respect and love you have for a parent. And that's what my father said to me. Interestingly, Robbie said, okay, if this is really what you want to do, I'm here for you. Let me know what I can do. And then he said, you'll make enough mistakes of your own. There's no reason for you to make the same ones I did. So, occasionally in life, it's helpful to know what, didn't work out the way you hope, and maybe your child can avoid those kind of things. And I assume that works, and it's not uncommon for children to occasionally go into, mom or dad's a lawyer, they go into law. Mom or dad's a doctor, they become a doctor. You got a farm in the family, someone works the family farm. That's kind of not unusual. But he's doing this for his own reasons, Rob, and I'm proud of him for putting himself out there.
One of the things that's very interesting is obviously you have another son. They're twins. And I've asked Bo numerous times, I'm like, your brother didn't like want anybody? He's like, nope, he was smart. He didn't want any part of it. Can you talk a little bit about the dynamic of being a dad where you now have one kid sort of adult son entering the political world, and then you have this other son who's very successful in his own right, how you kind of manage that and what your relationship is like with your other son?
Sure. And his name is Nick. And they're fraternal twins, but they're very fraternal. And going back to Bo and why he's doing what he's doing, it relates to Nick a little bit too. My last successful race, I lost my last one, but the last one I won was for the Senate in 2014. No, it was, I'm so old.
Well, I think
it's 2004. Just for the record, I haven't completely lost it. 2004.
Because we wanted you to be vice president back then, and I want to ask you about all the times they said you were going to be vice president.
Well, the country was spared that outcome. But so we go out on stage, and my wonderful wife is with me, and both boys are with me, and they're like 9 years old at the time. And there's a big crowd there, people cheering, yelling, just wanting to shake hands, and they're kind of taking it in and so forth. Well, I finished thanking everybody and giving my remarks, and Nick couldn't wait to get back behind the curtain with his mother. He's looking at all this going, what on earth is this? I don't know what's going on here. He's a little shy. And I went out to do what are called stand-ups, which I spent, an interview with each of the television stations, one after another. So I go up to the first one, and I looked at it, and there's Bo standing right beside me. He just walked out there with me. And he's looking around going, wow, this is really kind of neat. I wonder, what's going on with this? So they're wired differently. Bo's always been more verbal. Nick is really incredible with mathematics. Bo is more extroverted. Nick's a little shyer. But in terms of parenting, you just have the one daughter.
One.
Well,
That's
so
it.
If you have more than one, I was an only child, so as was my mother. My father had a sister. But if you have more than one child, you love them the same. You try and treat them equally, but then you respect that they're their own people too. And one of the interesting things is they grow and mature, and you see them go in different directions. In our case, playing different sports and having different aptitudes, is you just embrace the difference. But I've always tried to just 50-50, 100%. But yeah, his brother, who is my father-in-law, my wife's dad was an engineer, he literally was a rocket scientist. So, you can tell some people that mathematics, they're just wired differently.
Yeah. And some of us go into media then.
Oh, well, yeah. Or like me. So he clearly has that aptitude. So he was always very academic, and particularly with math and statistics and things like that. So he's in finance and business, and really, has no interest in going into politics at all.
Former Governor Evan Bayh is our guest. Did you like doing media? Like it seems like some politicians really like it. Some don't want any part of it. Did you like doing stuff like this when you were in public office?
I did. Of course, part of it depends on the kind of interview that you're having, If this interview were going, isn't it true that you were, that's a different kind of thing. But yeah, number one, I like talking about public issues. And that's a part of trying to inform your listeners and the public. And so I always thought that was a part of a responsibility, a public figure. And I find that most media people are interested in public issues and that sort of thing. And so I find them to be interesting people to talk to. And it's just a part of the job, trying to inform the public. And they have a right, if you're an official or you're seeking an office, hey, who are you? And what do you stand for? And if we vote for you, what are you going to do for us? So it's a part of the job, the educational part.
You always seem to find a middle ground. And we had your old close friend Bill Moreau on the a month ago.
I'm glad your show survived that.
Bill's awesome. We like Bill. He's a wild guy. Yeah. And we were talking about your time as governor, and obviously Bill was there with you through almost all the stuff, right? And we were talking a little bit about, I can't remember if this is on air or off air, if a guy like you can exist today, that guy that found the middle ground, that compromised with Republicans, that governed as a centrist, could you make it work today? Does the Evan Bayh model work today?
It's harder because our society has become so polarized. And, the online devices and that kind of thing, people can now select their own reality.
That's a great way to put it.
And their own,
I'm gonna steal that.
Well, there was a United States senator who once said, "You're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts."
Yeah.
Increasingly today, I mean, people are kind of selecting their own facts. So the country is regrettably more polarized. I think that's bad, and I think we need leaders that need to try and span the divisions. But my son's candidacy may test this some, because he's running as a nonpartisan, and I think the correct approach, I tried, not always perfect, I hope he will try and be better than me, common sense. What makes sense here? What's going to actually improve people's lives? What's going to solve the problem that we're trying to confront here? And people sometimes say, are you left? Are you right? Are you in the middle? I've never viewed it as an ideological continuum like that. I sometimes envy people who are all one way or the other. I've never found life to be quite that simple. The right solution to a challenge or a problem, sometimes it's a little more to the right, sometimes it's a little more to the left. The appropriate thing, though, is common sense. What will work? And I've never found one point of view that just answers all of life's problems.
How did you decide if you were going to run for an office? Like, was there a common thread from each choice, whether it's Secretary of State, then governor, then senator? Was there like a common thing you did at each step?
Well, that's a good question. And, I'm now old enough, Rob, this December, I'm going to be 71.
You look great. You're very well preserved.
Well, that's kind of you to say. I'm spending more time seeing doctors today than I care to. But so you're testing my memory. But I wanted to come home, and I was an IU guy. And so I didn't really want to be in Washington. And so running for something here in the state made sense. I thought a little bit about the state legislature, where my father served before going to the United States Senate. But I'm more of an executive, and I think my son's wired that way too. He was captain in the Marine Corps. He's used to kind of leading and being the commanding officer and that kind of thing. I was just more wired to be an executive than my father was a master legislator and had a lot of accomplishments there. I was just more of an executive. And so running for Secretary of State, there was a race above me on the ballot that year for the United States Senate. Dan Quayle was running for re-election. This year, Secretary of State is the top office. But so it seemed like that made sense, because I thought, if you're going to go into public life, you should try and put yourself in the position to do the most good for the most people. It's an executive office, so I'll try that. And one of my father's dear friends and supporters, I don't know if the name Larry Conrad means anything to you. Larry had been Secretary of State, and I admired him. And so I gave it a shot, and the people of our state have been giving me a second chance ever since.
Did you like the U.S. Senate?
Frankly, I preferred being governor.
Yeah.
Because, again, you're making decisions, you're taking in all the information, regardless of party, regardless of ideology. You try and bring people together, forge principled compromises. Both of those words are important. So I enjoyed it. The Senate, following my father's time, just became more ideological, more partisan, constant fighting, and that's just not who I am. And so I didn't enjoy that part of it. I enjoyed, it's intellectually fascinating, and following 9/11, which we're about to celebrate's the wrong word, we're about to acknowledge the 25th year since that tragedy. I was on the Intelligence Committee, so got deeply involved with the efforts to prevent more terror attacks. And if you had asked me then, Rob, if we were going to go 25 years and there was not going to be another mass strike on our country, I would have said, no way. This is just going to be a fact of life every 2 or 3 years. But the people in the FBI, the intelligence world, they deserve a lot of credit. We've had a few lone wolf strikes and that sort of thing, but nothing like 9/11. Then we had the financial crisis, and I remember being summoned down to the
because you were still in the Senate then.
I was, and back in those days we had the first impeachment. So I took an oath to uphold the Constitution one day. The second day I had to take an oath to be a juror in the first impeachment trial of a president since 1868. It's become a little more common now, but back then here's an interesting story. There weren't any rules because it hadn't been done in more than 100 years. And nobody remembered what happened back in 1868. So there was fussing and fighting. All 100 senators got together. And finally, we deputized Teddy Kennedy, who was kind of on the left, and Phil Gramm from Texas, who's kind of on the right, say, you guys see if you can kind of work out a proposal here. And they spent, 10, 12 hours. And they finally came back with a proposal about how to conduct the trial, highly politically charged, you can imagine. and we adopted it 100-0. I mean, today you couldn't get 100 people to vote for Mother Teresa being a good person. So, I mean, it can be done, and it's harder today. But you're dealing with that constitutional crisis, dealing with 9/11. I got summoned down to the Capitol to meet with the chairman of the Federal Reserve and the Secretary of Treasury. And Hank Paulson was the Secretary of Treasury, turns to Ben Bernanke, he was the head of the Fed, and says, Ben, there are like 10 of us, 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans. He said, Ben, tell the senators what we're looking at. And I'll never forget this. Bernanke was a low-key guy, man, a few words. He's a college professor.
Cranky Bernanke was his nickname.
Was that his nickname? And so think about this guy had written a book on monetary policy mistakes during the Great Depression. And here's what he says to us. He says, within 24 to 48 hours, there will be a complete meltdown of the global financial system. It will take with it tens of thousands of businesses and tens of millions of jobs. And if we are not lucky, it will rival in magnitude the Great Depression. So there's silence. And finally, someone says, well, we can't have that. So what are we going to do? And the first iteration was buying the toxic assets off the ballot. That was going to be way too complicated. And then we did something kind of outside the box. We're going to inject money into the financial institutions. Actually ended up making not something you do except in an extreme case, which was what we were facing. We ended up actually making money on all those things, with, I think, the exception of Fannie Mae. In any event, we did what had to be done, and nobody wanted to bail out Wall Street. To hell with them. They created the mess. Let them go. The problem was, if we tank them and tank the whole economy, it was going to cause everybody else on Main Street to go down. One of the university professors in our state came to see me and said, Evan, a third of the students won't be able to come back in the fall for college. I said, why not? He said, student loan market's gone away. I had auto dealers coming to see me. No one could get a car loan. My auto dealership's going to go out of business. I mean, it was going to be bad for ordinary people. Forget the folks who created these strange financial instruments and then levered up and caused the problem. To hell with them. But in any event, and then finally, I talked about 9/11, and so there were some major challenges that we had to deal with there, and it was an honor doing that. And you learn a heck of a lot if you're intellectually curious. But if you're a person of action, I mean, today, months go by in Congress, and nothing happens except they argue with each other, and they go online to try and get clicks or donations or whatever. And it's kind of red team versus blue team, and that's just never been the way I am. So I preferred being governor.
Former Governor Evan Bayh is our guest. When you would go meet with the president, I had a state rep tell me this years ago, and this is the best analogy I can have, and I'm curious to see if it's the same way as president. It was about the stadium. This guy voted to fund Lucas Oil Stadium. And I asked him years later, I said, why the hell did you do that? He said, well, the governor asked me to do it. And I said, well, you're supposed to be the check and balance on the governor. He goes, you don't understand. When the governor asks you to do something, you give great deference to that if it's a personal request. What's it like to meet with the president? Because technically you are the check and balance on the president. What's it like to go into a meeting with the president of the United States? How do you handle that?
Well, I'm kind of old school. I believe that regardless of who the occupant of the office is, you treat that individual with respect. And you want to know what their opinion is because they're the president of the United States. By the way, I just wish that state legislature had been the state legislature when I was governor. That was not always my experience with state legislators. They go, what does the governor know? But so look,
he was the same party, so I think it made it a little easier for him.
Okay, it usually does, but you listen to what the president has to say out of respect, and you take their opinion in. But I liked something Harry Truman once said, and there's a great story. My parents I actually got to meet Harry Truman when I was 6 years old.
No kidding.
Drove out to Independence, Missouri. My father wanted to ask for his advice. He was thinking about running for the United States Senate, and the president welcomed us in. My mother had admonished me, look, we're bringing you along, but I don't want to hear anything from you.
Don't embarrass our family.
I had all these soda pops on the drive out there. And so finally I tried crossing my legs. I tried biting my lip. And while the president is speaking, I said, Mom, I've got to go to the bathroom. Well, she turned, beet red. Harry Truman stood up and said, that's all right, young man. So do I. And off we went. So my real claim to fame.
You to the can with Harry Truman. What a story.
That's my claim to fame. But he had something, and to get back to the question you asked, because Harry Truman had a saying I think was right on. He said, my job is to represent the people of Missouri in Washington, D.C. not the other way around. So you always have to remember who you represent, where you're from. You take in all the other opinions, but ultimately you do the right thing for the people that have elected you and for your home state. And if you ask me, one of the things we should change about Congress these days, do away with the caucus system, because right now it's too much vote the party line, vote the party line. Well, no party's right all the time. As we were talking about before we went on the air, that's one of the things with the Secretary of State's race. We want a Secretary of State who's going to be willing to stand up to their own party from time to time to do the right thing. And that's the perspective you need there in Washington, D.C. So listen to the president. Sometimes there can be some pressure involved. That's true. But, you shouldn't be in one of those positions if you don't have the capacity to speak truth to power and occasionally say no, even to the president of the United States.
Seemed like every 4 years we heard you were going to be the vice president.
Huh.
And I guess, did you ever want to be vice president? What's it like to be considered? Like, are there conversations? What actually happens when you're on these supposed short lists, or is that just nonsense that's all made up?
No, and that was a fascinating experience. By the way, I was talking to somebody contacted me about possibly writing a book about my life. And so I'm thinking about it. It's a lot of work, but I'm thinking about it. But some of these
AI will do it all for you now, Governor.
That's true. But AI doesn't know some of the stories that I think would make it an interesting tale. So that was a really interesting process. And it was an honor to be considered. If I'd been asked, I would have said yes. My understanding is that it might have been me, but that the Democratic leader in the Senate, then Harry Reid, weighed in and said to candidate Obama, look, we need every vote we can get in the Senate. Indiana has a Republican governor. Bayh will be replaced by a Republican. Delaware has a Democratic governor. You can pick Biden and not lose a vote in the Senate. And that was kind of that.
So you think that if Indiana had a different makeup, you might have been the pick for vice president?
Yeah, I do. I don't know that for a fact, but I've been told by enough people. I think that had something to do with it. And I asked Harry Reid about it, and he said, yeah, I did everything I could to try and make sure he didn't pick you. I said, gee, thanks, Harry. But, because he was looking at it as the leader of the Senate needing all the votes. So, but in any event.
I'm picturing it like being in the movie Office Space where they sit down with the Bobs and like you and Obama are having a chat and he's like, what do you say that you do? What's that like?
Well, I was going to go there. So it turns out it's me or Biden. And they had vetted me, taxes, medical records, interviews up one side and down the other. And so it was really an interesting process.
Medical records?
Oh, everything. By the way, there's the question. I was first considered under Al Gore, and there was like 10 questions to ask you and 2 pieces of paper. By the time it got around to Barack Obama, it was like a 40-page document. And at the end of it, they ask a question, is there anything about you, true or untrue, that might be embarrassing to the candidate? And I looked at this and I got on the phone, called the guy who was conducting all this. And I said, I'm reading this. Now, what you're asking me is, are there any completely unsubstantiated rumors that aren't true that you still want to know about? And he goes, well, yeah, we'd like to know about those too. And I said, well, to be honest, I don't really keep track of all the stuff I know is false. And, but I answered as fully as I could. So I go out to see then Senator Obama. They fly me, it was a very private plane, tinted windows, take me up in the freight elevator. So I'm waiting in his hotel room. I think it was St. Louis. And they had ESPN. He's a big sports guy. They had ESPN on, and we had hamburgers together. And so at one point we start talking. He said, well, tell me a little bit like Indiana. And I said, we Hoosiers like evolutionary change. We're not really big on radical change. And he said, well, that sounds a lot like America. So we started talking. And in any event, at one point he points over to this 3-foot-high stack of stuff. He says, my team has completely checked you out. He says, they've gone over everything we can possibly find about you. And, I've looked at it and there's nothing in there that bothers me. But if there's anything my team didn't uncover about you think I should know, tell me now. Because they're going all the way back to people I was in first grade with. And so it's going to come out. And so you owe it to me to tell me now. And I said, well, your team did a pretty thorough job. I've likened it, Rob, to having a colonoscopy performed with the telescope, right? It's a rather exacting experience. Hubble telescope, that's what I was searching for. And so I said, well, your team did a thorough job, but there are probably 2 or 3 things I should mention to you. And I did. And he looks at me, this is a true story. He looks at me and says, that's it? I said, yeah, that's it. And he said, well, you haven't led much of a life, have you? Because, look, I wasn't perfect. I was a knucklehead kid like, a lot of other people. But, I didn't want to embarrass my parents.
Yeah.
So, try and live your life within the 40-yard lines. And I think, he'd maybe live within the 30s.
Yeah.
So in any event, that was a humorous experience. And then you get the phone call. Senator Obama's on the line, and you pick up, you're about to pick up the phone, and you're going to hear it's going to change your life forever, or life's going to go back to normal.
So they actually call you and tell you. The president, or the man who became president, actually calls you directly and tells you.
Oh, in that case, he did.
And is it like just right away? Hey, man, sorry, we're going with the other guy. Do you get a rebuttal? Like what?
No, Evan, really appreciate going through the process. Think the world of you, but I've decided to go a different direction. But look forward to working with you, and blah 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 blah. It's kind of like that.
That's amazing.
And so we had television cameras across the street from our house. I remember watching TV one morning. Keith Olbermann was on there. Remember him?
Oh, yeah.
And they are looking through the window of our breakfast area, and I'm making myself put some yogurt on top of some cereal, and he goes, that yogurt looks yummy. So it's surreal. You're watching TV, watching you having breakfast. So anyway, but they were all out, they were following me when I would took, Bo to his brother to one of his tennis things, or Bo to a thing. They would literally follow you down the street. I made a wrong turn. I kind of gestured to the guy, somebody from Fox. I said, I'm making a wrong turn here. I'm not trying to shake my tail. But in any event, so they go from like on you 24/7 to so gone. Crickets.
Just out of sight, out of mind.
So it's like you're in the middle of the tornado to just calm.
Do you just shut it down afterwards? Like, do you spend, I'm not saying the rest of your days, but do you spend at points in your life going, Biden became president, I could have been the president? Does that like ever occur to you afterwards?
Occasionally, you get on with life. You can't live with what, could have.
Oh, we hold grudges here. We hang on to stuff.
Well, it might be better for your inner peace, Rob, if you kind of let some of that go. But
my wife tells me that all the time.
But yeah, it occasionally, you look, and then I'll jump forward. So if I'd been vice president, maybe I would have run for president. A lot of vice presidents do. If that had happened and that had worked out, then I would have been president of the United States when my wife was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. And I love that woman. I devoted myself to her. I got some help every day for 3 or 4 hours. But other than that, it was me taking her to her medical appointments, making sure she took her medicine, all those kind of things. And I couldn't have done that. So, the Lord works in mysterious ways. And so maybe that was his way, or I don't want to use a gender pronoun for the Almighty, but that would have been God's way of saying, your highest and best use is taking care of your wife.
Well, so that was what I was gonna bring up to you is, my mom said this when Bo decided he was going to run. The first thing she said is, oh, I loved his mom. And, we had a long conversation about your wife, about Bo's mom. And I had this conversation with Bo when he was here. Just talk a little bit about her and what she meant to the family, and all of the sacrifices that are involved in raising kids and being the wife of a governor and a senator. Just spend a few moments talking about her and how she made your life better.
Rob, I am the luckiest man in the world, because for 35 years she was just the perfect spouse, an incredible mom, a wonderful, vivacious first lady, very active, getting all around our state. And I've had people, when she passed, would reach out to me and say, I was looking at a map on the street, and she would stop and say, can I help you? Somebody else contacted me. The flight to back home to Indiana got canceled, and she went up and, rearranged her to get another flight. But then she went to all the other people and she said, look, here's how we need to do this. She was just an amazing, the most loving person you can imagine. And that included, the people of our state. She was originally from California, but she said, I'm a Hoosier by choice. And she loved our Midwestern, her family was originally from next door in Ohio, but the fact that, Hoosiers are just not pretentious. We're down to earth, ordinary people. And so an incredible mother. A few years ago, there was this stuff about tiger moms.
Yeah.
I used to say that tiger moms were wimps compared to Susan Bayh.
Yeah.
I mean, she was just, and Bo would occasionally chafe on that. And sometimes she says, here, you deal. And I'd call him and I'd say, all right, buddy, your mom's going to win. So we can either make this hard or we can make it easy. My advice to you is you leave our little meeting here and you go out to her and you say, I love you, Mom. Throw your arms around her and I guarantee you everything will be okay.
Yeah.
And it seemed to work. So, but there is not enough good words I can say about her in terms of all of that. And
I mean, I just thought it was wild that when he announced he was running,
I miss her every day.
My mom's response was not, "Oh, Evan was great," or "That's Bo's awesome." It was his mom was an amazing woman, and I think that just says so much about her.
Well, it does, and I think you said that Bo looks somewhat like me, and he does. Fortunately.
Yeah, I told him last time I was here, like, you won the genetic lottery, man. Your dad was a good-looking governor. Your mom's a beauty queen. And then I'm sitting here at 5'8" and 160 pounds. I said, you won the lottery.
Well, and that's something else I admire about him is, he's had some advantages in life. And he's embraced that. But rather than just living for himself and just going out and making as much money as he can and hanging out here or there all day and doing whatever, he's trying to lead a purposeful life to help other people. And that's what people have had advantages in life should do, at least the way I've always thought about it. But in any event, where I'm going with this, Rob, is when someone has brain cancer, depending on the part of the brain, and she had a very bad case, it was on both sides, but the tumor had eaten away the part of her brain that deals with socialization, the things that you learn, how am I supposed to behave? What's the right thing to do here? It ate all that away, and it revealed her for who innately she was. She never complained once. She never said, woe is me. There was no pity party. She was a loving, happy person. We took her to the brain cancer center down at Duke, which is one of the foremost things down there. And we were there for 70 days, and she was getting more needles stuck in her. She had to get radiation. She had to get all this stuff. And later, when we got her back home, I asked her, I said, sweetheart, looking back over she lasted 2 years and 3 months. At some point I said, what's the part that you've enjoyed most here? And she said, being down at Duke. And I said, why? It's because I got another room next to ours where both boys could come and spend it's the year after they graduated from college. We weren't able to go to their college graduation because she'd been operated on 2 days before. I said, why? She said, because we were all together. Having the family together meant more to her than anything. But where I'm going with it, people always said to me, he's a little uptight. It's true. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. And I wanted to get it. So they go, is he plastic or, whatever. Susan Bayh was the most genuine person you would ever meet. And I think Bo has inherited that attribute from his mother. He's sincere. He relates to people in a genuine way. That's his mom.
Before I let you go, I told Bo the last time he was here, the fact that he got a donation from John Mellencamp is like the coolest thing ever. Did you ever get a donation from anybody that you were like, oh, that's neat? Like, was there ever one of those where you're like, that's pretty cool?
Well, John Mellencamp's pretty cool.
That's like father, like son.
So
right?
that relationship began with I was elected governor at 32. I took office at 33.
That's amazing at 32 years old. Like,
I know.
I was still being an idiot in Broad Ripple at 32 years old. You're the governor.
Well, we went from having the oldest governor, Bob Orr, who's a good man, he was in his 70s, to the youngest governor, 40-year age difference. Susan was 29 when she became first lady. But, it's, and I look back on that, I go, oh my gosh. Fortunately, you mentioned Bill Morrow, he's my first chief of staff. We were able, and, my advice to my son, if he's successful in this, is surround yourself with the best people you can find. Smart, honest, publicly motivated, because you're not going to be able to do this deal by yourself.
Right.
And so I was very blessed when I look back. Great budget directors, great chiefs of staff, great general counsels. But the two most important positions are budget director, because you got to keep your eye on the budget. You can't let that get out of hand. I know you're not a big surplus guy, but by the way, we did cut taxes during my term as governor and left the state with what was then the largest surplus. Today's maybe a little bit bigger.
Hey, I think you need enough to operate. My thing is when you get to $5 billion.
So here's the deal. Here's the deal. Everybody wants to come in to see the governor, and my job was to be the good person. The budget director was the difficult cop, good cop back. So I'd say, Governor, can we spend money? And I go, that sounds like a wonderful proposal. That sounds great. You have my blessing. Please, but you got to clear it to the budget director. And then the budget director will go, sorry, we don't have the money for that.
That's how that works with our relationship. I give it all to Jason when I don't want to do something. I say, it sounds fine to me. You got to get it through Jason. So
in any event, to get back to it, John, here I was a young governor. He was a young up-and-comer, still down in, I don't know if he'd relocated to Brown County then or he's still in Seymour. But by the way, Bo's campaign manager, is a Jackson County guy from Seymour. He's also a graduate of Purdue.
Uh-oh.
And when I heard he was bringing my dad was a Purdue guy. I was an IU guy.
That's right.
I said,
smart one.
I said, good. We got to have somebody who knows math because you got to make sure you abide by your campaign budget.
Yeah.
Because in our state, if you have unmet campaign debts, you're personally liable for those. Yeah. So, in any event, Jack's doing a great job. But my relationship with John was we have a friendship to this day.
Did he just call you?
He did. John, I'd say, wow, John Mellon's campus is calling. Great. But
you remember that Chris Farley Saturday Night Live episode where he's interviewing Paul McCartney? Do you go remember when you did Small Town? Oh, that was awesome. What is that conversation like?
I just said, hey, I know you've been elected. I'm really excited about what you can do for our state. And if there's anything I can do to help, let me know. And so we've been friends ever since. But one of my favorite phone calls was when I was in the Senate. We had some dinner at our house going on, and somebody comes in and says, I think Susan came in and said, Evan, Robert Redford's calling. And I said, oh, really? And I said, they said, Senator Bayh? I said, yeah, it's Bob Redford. And so I go, well, thank you, Bob. And it was some environmental deal. He was a big environmentalist. Yeah. He was lobbying for some bill. I said, well, I really appreciate your point of view. I'll give that a careful look. Thank you very much. And Susan had stars in her eyes and just said, whatever Bob Redford wants, you should really think about doing this. So
yeah, you were great in The Natural. You were awesome.
I said, smart guy. He knew how to put pressure on me by appealing to my wife.
Yeah, very good. Man, this has been so much fun. I've been wanting to do this for a while. And Bo said, hey, I'll hook it up and take care of it. Mr. Governor, thank you for your time and sharing some stories.
My deal is this, Rob. I see you have both a Wendy's and a McDonald's across the street. My deal with this is you feed me and I'll come.
It's so funny because I was talking with my mom yesterday. She knew you were coming in. And we were debating on what a lunch looks like for you. And I said, I'm sure Evan Bayh hangs out at the Wendy's all the time.
Well, actually, my place is on the north side of town on 86th Street, and there's a McDonald's that's in walking distance away. And let's just say I've consumed my fair share of double quarter pounders.
Mr. Governor, thank you. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Rob.
We'll take a break. We'll be back. You're watching Rob Kendall Show.
If authentic wood-smoked barbecue is your thing, Double D's Barbecue in Clayton is the place for you. Owners Dennis and Tina Duncan, along with their son Garrett, are from Memphis. So when it comes to barbecue, they're not screwing around. No pellet smokers, no roasters, just authentic wood-smoked Memphis-style barbecue. All of Double D's food is cooked fresh daily, and it's all made from scratch. Double D's Barbecue, located at 40 and 39 in Clayton, is open all day, Wednesday through Saturday, but get there early because once they're sold out, they're done. Check out the full menu, ribs, brisket, and more at ddbbq317.com.
Right now, everything's expensive. That includes things you need around the house. If your water heater, water softener, or well pump goes out, or even if your toilet stops working, you could be looking at a major expense. Don't let your next call to a plumber break the bank. Call John at Black Sheep Plumbing. John is a Hoosier lifer who takes pride in and stands behind his work. That's why all basic services and repairs with Black Sheep Plumbing come with a 2-year parts and labor guarantee, with water heaters having a 6-year parts and tank guarantee. Call or text Black Sheep Plumbing for all your needs today and speak directly with John, the owner. 765-315-7558. That's Black Sheep Plumbing at 765-315-7558.
Is the inside of your house a total mess, like a complete dumpster fire? Call AJ's Picture Perfect Cleaning. When you walk into your house after using AJ's Picture Perfect Cleaning, you will see and smell the difference. They take great pride in their workers and treat your home like their own. All cleaners pass through a background check and drug screening. Call today and mention you heard about AJ's Picture Perfect Cleaning on The Rob Kendall Show, and you will get an incredible $50 off your first clean. AJ's Picture Perfect Cleaning serves all of Central Indiana. Book your appointment today by calling 317-530-8148. 317-530-8148. Rob Kendall Show. Thanks so much for joining us. Hope you're having a great Monday. No YouTube chat today. Just a reminder, we'll be back with YouTube chat tomorrow. Had to duck out a little early today. Had a dentist appointment. You guys understand, right? I mean, we don't take days off here, but, you got to go to the dentist. So we'll be back tomorrow. Want to get your thoughts on the Evan Bayh interview. We will read those tomorrow. So you can either, Jason will be, I know, scouring the YouTube chat today. If tomorrow when you pop in, you want to give those. That was an interesting interview, right? I think what a fascinating guy. You think about like the family history, the fact that his dad was a U.S. senator, ran for president of the United States, the fact that, he was a U.S. senator, almost vice president of the United States, a governor from Indiana, secretary of state. And now you couple in the fact that his son is running for secretary of state in a sort of a last gasp of the Democrats in Indiana. Like, if Bayh can't pull it off, Democrats might as well call it quits. But what an interesting life, right? I mean, many, many years now, he's a decade and a half or more removed from the political spotlight, obviously tried to come back in 2016, and we're going to have him back. That was one of the things, we could have talked to him for 2 hours. I mean, it's one of those interviews where you're like, he's just that interesting of a person. You could have spent 2 hours. We didn't have 2 hours, so you try to hit the things that you think are most important. One of the things we didn't even get into was 2016. And I would love to ask him about that, have the opportunity to say, hey, why did you decide to run again in 2016? What did you learn from 2016? If you had to do over again, would you have done it the way you done it? This is like, there were 10 things that I wanted to get to. We got to about 5 of them, and we'd love to have him back. Evan Bayh was an awesome guest. If you missed any of the interview, hear a little bit later this afternoon. When I get back from the dentist, we'll post the interview up so you guys can see it on demand. Go back and listen whenever you want. So like I said, no YouTube chat today. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll get your thoughts on the Evan Bayh interview tomorrow in the YouTube chat. Brought to you by Black Sheep Plumbing. And, of course, a reminder, I know the Evan Bayh interview took up most of the third hour, but the third hour brought to you by our great friend, John Rust. We could not do it without him. And always thanks, as always, to John McKinney, Black Sheep Plumbing, for making the YouTube chat possible, which will be back tomorrow. Yes, yes, yes. In the meantime, before you bid adieu today, you can really help us out by liking the feed, whether you're watching us live or on demand on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up. If you're listening to us on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, any of the places, that 5-star review really helps us out as well. So thank you to each and every one of you who every single day make the Rob Kendall Show possible. Without you, there is no us. You are the greatest audience in all the world. It's why we're able to get so many great guests. They know the influence this show has. They know the influence you have, and you are the best audience ever. That's why this show is what it is. That is going to do it for us. Taking a dugout just a little bit early. You guys have an awesome, awesome rest of your Monday. Stay safe out there. We'll be back here tomorrow, 9 until noon, with the YouTube chat brought to you by Black Sheep Plumbing. For producer Jason, well, that's going to do it for us today. For producer Jason, I'm Rob Kendall. You've been listening to The Rob Kendall Show.